Beal.
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina.
She's present,
Did you sit here? Okay.
but not for purpose of quorum, though.
Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Lee.
Here, everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain, standing for a moment of silence in recognition of a very important individual, Ralph Holt, to our community, a good friend to many. Also, he's been involved in the town and town projects for a very long time. We'll have more to come in honor, recognition of Ralph's great life. So please, let's bow our heads in a moment of self-reflection and prayer for Ralph. Amen. And Ralph, may you rest in peace. Thank you. For the agenda, I believe that Councilwoman Bettina wanted to add a resolution for recognizing proclamation for Christopher Columbus Day and for Indigenous Native American Day, and another for recognizing National Hispanic Heritage Month. And we'll add those toward the end of the agenda. Does anybody have any objection or comment?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Make the
Okay.
motion with the edited agenda.
Okay. There's a
I'll
motion.
second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item. Okay. The next item is a motion to acknowledge the minutes of September 12th, 2022.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Tonight is part of our ongoing community service, civic presentations. I have invited Ron Hicks to speak to us today. He's the Assistant County Executive for Strategic Planning and Economic Development. He joined Dutchess County in 2012 and has made huge, major contributions to Dutchess County, our community, and many others in what I consider to be a lot of innovation, creativity, and he's been core at Think Dutchess initiatives, and he was really, in many ways, the man behind the scenes on getting us over through COVID. And I really thank Ron for all that you did in county under Marcus and everyone else. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me through this okay? All right, so you have to forgive me. This is my first time actually presenting here, and I have this thing about being disrespectful to people and showing my back. So this is why I'm here on the side, so that I could see everybody. And forgive me, Mr. Holt, for turning you off, but that's the only screen I have for my presentation. So thank you, council members and supervisor, for inviting me here today. What I'm here to talk to you about is basically Dutchess County's economic development program and strategy, the initiatives in our economic activity countywide, and some of the projects in the town and some opportunities. Now, you have many of you have already heard the beginning part of my presentation, because I think it's very important of what we've done with our economic development apparatus. It just tells you what our program is about and how it started. So we took what was existing when we came on board in 2012, and we consolidated, co-located, and reformed our apparatus. Then we began collaborating and promoting, and then we began innovating, and I'll get into how we did this. And then right now, we're starting to reimagine all over again. And I don't like to say post-COVID, but in light of the pandemic that we're in and likely to experience for the rest of our lives. So we consolidated our economic development development apparatus into one brand called Think Dutchess. It's the Think Dutchess Alliance for Business. We co-located our space into a one-stop shop for businesses, whether you're someone who has an idea for a business right up on to IBM, you would come to this location where we've consolidated the IDA, the Local Development Corporation, the Women's Enterprise Development Center, and our Dutchess County WIB. I also have an office in this space, and we have Community Capital, the Small Business Development Center, and also Empire State Development, who have satellite offices there. We also reformed our public authorities. You probably hear a good deal about IDAs throughout the state, and for good reason. Well, we're leaders in reforming our public authorities. So we made changes to our board, we implemented best practices, we implemented performance-based incentives. In other words, if we incent a business to come into our community, they have to perform first. They have to create the jobs, they have to make the investment before they get the incentives. And I'm very proud of a local workforce utilization policy that we put in place because, frankly, I was tired of seeing plates from Tennessee and, no disrespect to Jersey and Connecticut, our border states, but I wanted to see people from within our state, within our community, within our region, working on these projects that were incentivized. And then we began collaborating. So we established the Economic Development Advisory Council, known as EDAC. And we have these 10 organizations that serve as ex officio members of this EDAC. These are the primary economic development organizations in the county, including the college and the Chamber of Commerce. And we set up also individuals to represent different industry clusters from education. The presidents of the colleges serve on this, professional service providers, manufacturers, top employers, leisure, hospitality, healthcare, and banking. And then we created standing committees to focus on specific economic issues. Yes, the City of Poughkeepsie is a committee of itself. As the City of Poughkeepsie goes, so goes the rest of us. It really does have regional impact, so we need to focus on improving the City of Poughkeepsie to the extent we can. Local government committee, marketing, business innovation growth, commercial real estate, and education workforce. And these committees work together to implement a strategy for our economy. And then we began promoting heavily, starting in 2016. We did several different videos, publications. I traveled extensively almost every other week, I think, right up to 2018. And it was quite exhausting. And we did all this in order to tell a new story and to retain the businesses that we had and the workforce that we had, and also to attract talent. We produced a magazine, the first ever, and this was a really nice piece. And this is, some of you have heard me say this multiple times, this is no mistake. It is the only marketing piece that did not get an award. It's because they didn't think it was an economic development publication, because there's a very happy woman standing on the front of the cover. This is what our program is really about. It's about small businesses. It doesn't matter whether you're working in your basement or you're working at Global Foundries. Business is business, and this is what our business is about in our community. It's about an individual very happy on Main Street, independent, working in our community and paying the bills. And this magazine had all kinds of things in it in order to change the perceptions of people who are in our community, to let them know the exciting things that have been happening here, but also to attract talent to us, to let the people know in the Northeast and elsewhere that we're really a force to be reckoned with, and it's a wonderful place to live. So if you see up in here, I don't know if it's a little hard for you to see here, but this is one I use all the time. That's Lin-Manuel, the famous play Hamilton. He developed that here in Dutchess County at Vassar Powerhouse in Poughkeepsie. Over on the far left is Chef Paul Bocuse, the famous French chef. He sent his son here to Hyde Park to learn how to cook. So we tell these stories, including millennials who work on the IBM Z system down at IBM Poughkeepsie. A lot of people think IBM's gone. They still have 4,000 people working here, and the Z system processes 90% of the world's financial institutions utilize the Z system that's assembled here. And IBM, by the way, in Poughkeepsie also has at least 3 quantum computers that I know of at Poughkeepsie. So if you don't know what quantum computing is, I consider it the next arms race. So if I were in the 1960s and I held up this iPhone and told you all that it would do and be, and you'd laugh in my face. You're like, that's not possible. That's what quantum computing is to me right now. And we have it here in Poughkeepsie. And IBM established the first quantum computation center for commercial purposes right here in Poughkeepsie. We also feature a number of businesses. Again, small businesses. This is EFCO, fourth generation, north side of Poughkeepsie, one of the most distressed parts of Poughkeepsie, and yet this has endured for 4 generations. And you could go to San Diego, or you could go to Singapore, and you could get product that was made on Smith Street in Poughkeepsie. We also began innovating. We traveled, and today is Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, or yesterday was. Yesterday. Shana Tova to anybody who celebrates. Although if you did celebrate, you probably wouldn't be here right now. But we went to Israel because Israel is the startup nation. That is where the world individuals who want to start a business go because they know how to foster innovation. So we wanted to learn how. And on the far left is Frank Costello from the Chamber, myself, Sarah Lee from Think Duchess, Wayne Nussbickle, a long-standing business owner in the region. And we came back and we decided to advance this idea of an innovation ecosystem in our community, because we really had all the assets. We just had never combined them. So here's a map of Dutchess County. Initially, when we did this, we looked at the 4 institutions that surround Poughkeepsie: Marist, Vassar, Dutchess Community College, and IBM. And we got them to sign a memorandum of understanding to work together, regardless of what it may be, that would be mutually beneficial in order to establish this ecosystem and foster business innovation growth. Now we can expand that even further because Dutchess Community College has moved their southern campus to Fishkill in the old Mays building. And by the way, the southern portion of that campus, which has pretty much been blighted since I've been alive, is going through the town for site plan approval for a logistics facility. So we hope to see improvements there soon. And Global Foundries, which took over from IBM. And frankly, when they took over, we really thought that that was going to be the final years of that plant, but it's been rejuvenated. In fact, the new company that's coming in 2023 is called On Semiconductor. They are making this the flagship semiconductor manufacturing facility for their brand. And they've already, just in the last 6 months, invested $150 million in 100,000 square feet of space down there that no one's really talked about yet. But now we've combined these organizations and adding them into that memorandum of understanding. And guess where the town of Wappinger is? Kind of right in the middle of that. So there's a lot of opportunity for us here in Wappinger. When we got back from Israel, Sarah Lee kicked off the Innovation Challenge. The idea here is that we've got these individuals in our community with ideas, just like Steve Jobs had at one time, or Mark Zuckerberg, and they're working in their homes. This is Dana Jones. She's a quadriplegic. At the time she came up with this technology, she was at Dutchess Community College. She is unable to reach the blue buttons that opened handicapped doors. She and another partner developed an app where she can open them with her phone. And we're looking to deploy that technology throughout the county as soon as it's commercialized. But this is one of the people and the ideas that we wanted to keep in our community and support them so that they could grow their business here. This is another one. Easton La Chapelle came from Colorado, had this grand vision of putting, for those who are either amputees or they were born without a limb, to be able to give them one back that is the color of their skin and the size of their body at market, right to them, at a low cost that's affordable, and that they can upgrade over time so that they can complete tasks with dignity. And it's amazing what this gentleman is doing. We secured him, kept him from going to Rhode Island, got him the most advanced 3D printer. He now has about 26 people working under him in Rhinebeck right now. So again, this innovation challenge is fleshing out these entrepreneurs and getting them to do things in our community. So our focus has been to promote the county, to retain and attract business, to create this ecosystem, to foster innovation and for entrepreneurial opportunities, to incentivize investment, and to close the skills gap, which is really a big problem. If anybody here is in business or works in a business and you have openings and you know how hard it is to get good people to work for you, that is a huge problem. So getting the talent here, getting them trained is very important, and then creating these pipelines to jobs. So our first pipeline was aviation. And it really is occurring right here in the town of Wappinger. We have an airport. When we came on board, we couldn't sell it, and we actually couldn't close it, couldn't give it away. There's a whole bunch of restrictions. At one time, it was a commercial airport, largely because of IBM's presence here. They had shuttles that would take you to Boston or Chicago or I think Burlington, Vermont, and some other places. But it has really been just a general aviation airport for people who could afford to fly. So we looked at the airport and we decided to start making investments in it. So the first thing we did was we put a 2-megawatt solar array up in the northeast corner of the airport up there to generate energy and to reduce the energy costs on the airport. Then this is critical, we brought a pipeline in. We had a large line, we do have a large line coming down that's called the Central Dutchess Water Line. We tapped it and we brought water to the airport. Now, I will tell you, the month that the county legislature did this, that they decided to invest in this water line, and this is why water and sewer infrastructure are so important, this building, which was vacant, Southeast Container, originally built, I think, for IBM to store mainframes, was taken over by, I believe, Pepsi or Coca-Cola, I can't remember which one, but then they were giving it up. They didn't want to be here any longer. They were going to consolidate their operations into Elmsford. This building, because of the lack of infrastructure, the size, uniqueness, its distance from the road, was really going to be a hard sell. And I was afraid this was going to become the West Campus of IBM that is now under development. But when we got that water line coming in, we immediately were able to attract a tenant. And Hudson Valley Lighting came over, invested tens of millions of dollars, made it their headquarters, their manufacturing and design center, right here in Wappinger. And I don't know their actual head count right now, post-COVID, but they were talking about expanding the last time we talked to them. So very excited about that. So we brought water to the airport. We effectively brought water to the entire airport property and creating an opportunity for the town to further expand the distribution of that water. These two stars represent one of our tenants, AAG, who is leaving. And actually, this is working out quite perfectly because Sikorsky, the aircraft that AAG maintained there, Sikorsky decided to no longer manufacture that vehicle. The Hamptons, which is 40% of Sikorsky's or the AAG's business, is likely to close the airport that they used to serve. And New York City is putting in all kinds of restrictions. So we're right now in negotiations. We thought we'd be there by now, but we think by October 1st we will be, with a new tenant who's not just going to, they have actually a flight department that goes beyond the Northeast, and we're very excited about them. But they're also going to do maintenance, and we're really working hard with them to get them to do advanced flight training, which means like a simulator, a $10 million plus simulator in that facility. Across the airport, on the left side of the screen, is our old Richmore hangar, we call it. That is where the New York City DEP is now based, and they have 2 helicopters based out of that location. You probably see them lifting off on a regular basis. And then over, there we go. Over to the bottom left is our new, we call it our Airport Rescue and Fire Center, I think, facility that we just built. And it's actually a beautiful building. And then here, I hope you've all experienced the roundabout and are pleased. This was something that when there was, I won't name the person or call them out, but they happened to work for the New York State DOT, also happened to be a pilot, and we brought them down, and we're having conversations about the accessibility and the traffic, and he advanced it on the schedule, and that got done. I honestly didn't think it was going to get done any time in the next 20 years. So we're very excited about that. This star down here is a new building that we put up. We decided with this aviation pipeline to partner with Dutchess Community College, who we pay for basically half of their existence. We broke ground on a new facility. We expanded their existing aviation program and advancing airframe and power plant for individuals who are mechanically inclined, who can now work on aircraft and graduate from this program. I think it's under 2 years, and you can get out making $65,000, $75,000 instead of going and getting $250,000 in debt. You could come here, right here in Wappinger, and we are bringing people in from the Northeast to this institution now. We had our groundbreaking, I think it was in July 2021, and you probably also saw this. This is a little mini Air Force One. This is a Gulfstream G3, I believe. We got this, DCC got this for $1,200 from the U.S. federal government, It was flown by George Bush the first one, and Norman Schwarzkopf. This was pre-9/11 when it is got some advanced technologies in it, or did, and they were taken out, but it was way before all the things that they put in place now for presidential travel. So they still have these types of aircrafts at the Air Force, but this one is now ours. And you could fly it. The problem with it is that the engines are banned. So part of the agreement, the reason why we got it for $1,200 is that we would never fly it again. But the kids can, or the students can come in, take it apart, put it back together, and start it up again. So over here on the left side, this big yellow block is the new opportunity that we saw. What do we do with the kids who are graduating from school? Well, there are many places for them to work, but we wanted to create a place for them to work in Wappinger, right here in Dutchess County. So this is our hangar. This is a rendering. It is not the final. We've actually improved upon it. We're creating the shovel-ready space for 2 new hangars at the airport. We're putting ourselves through the protracted process that government puts business and individuals through. We're going through that, creating certainty for anyone who would like to come here. They'll know the cost. They'll know the time of completion. Essentially, they could probably get a shovel in the ground in 30 to 60 days, which would be extraordinary, because if you were to do that without the help of government, it could likely take 3 to 4 years. The other location here on the right side of the airport is something that we're imagining right now. We're hoping to build, and we just got denied on our first grant request, but we're going to keep at it. We're hoping to redo the terminal, which was built for light commercial traffic. We're hoping to redo this terminal for additional maintenance facilities and hangar storage. So we've reimagined that whole section there and come up with several renderings through a consultant that we hope to make significant improvements there. And we're just going to keep fighting for the state dollars and the federal dollars to get it, and we won't give up. We didn't get it this round, but we'll keep trying. Our second pipeline is, pipeline 2 is mechatronics. Now, mechatronics are the foundational skills for every manufacturer. So whether it's EFCO, or it's Schatz Bearing that's located in Poughkeepsie. And by the way, if you've ever flown on a commercial aircraft, you've flown on an aircraft with parts made in Poughkeepsie, New York. And the Mars rover also has bearings on it from Poughkeepsie, New York. So it's pretty exciting. Once again, to do this mechatronics, or the second pipeline, we went back to our partner, Dutchess Community College, their new location here in southern Dutchess. And what you see here, some of you can probably see it, is this circle, this red circle. This represents 35-mile radius around the center of where Dutchess Community College's southern campus is. This dips into half of Westchester, half of Orange, half of Ulster, part of Connecticut, all of Putnam, and part of Dutchess. We intend to recruit from this whole area, and we intend to support the businesses in this area because we are a regional economy. So we went back to DCC. DCC agreed. We got the legislature incredibly generous to give us $1.2 million to buy the equipment to create this program. The college took about 48,000 square feet on the second floor, and this has actually been updated since, so this isn't entirely accurate, but we're taking about 10,000 square feet of space for the mechatronics lab. Again, here you have academic learning. Here you have applied learning, and we wanted them to be side by side to make sure that people had an opportunity to do both if they couldn't, if not just one. So we're going to bring the Council of Industry here, who pretty much is the association for all the manufacturers, and we have hundreds of them in our area. And this is where they're going to learn those foundational skills. Career technical education. This is basically what that kind of a lab looks like. And this equipment was purchased, or it was actually ordered, and the curriculum was designed by the manufacturers in our community. There's 150 of them that participate with the Council of Industry, who basically said, these are the skill sets that we need, and this is the equipment we need so that we can train people to give them jobs. Global Foundries, for example, had 200 positions open. Every manufacturer is trying to hire right now. And these are good jobs, good opportunities. And you don't have to necessarily go to a 4-year college to get a great job. And we want to add more dignity to this process and this path. These are some of the companies that will benefit. It is not just for the students coming up, but we do want that pipeline from the middle schools. It's also for incumbent workers. So our existing businesses can train their employees. And this is an interesting twist. You know the growth of our logistics industry, where your packages are coming from in the mail. These are three of the biggest. Amazon is coming in. Gap has been here. They have a 3 million square foot distribution facility, and now Pepsi Frito-Lay is coming in. They're all moving toward robotics. Now that means you don't have thousands of jobs, you have hundreds of jobs still, but they are technical jobs, they're higher skilled jobs. They all could get that skill from the mechatronics lab. By the way, these three right now represent $300 million in investment and 1,800 jobs. This is a problem because we just don't have the workers, and this is across disciplines, every business, across the nation. So it's very important that we show that our middle school people and everybody else in our community that there are opportunities out there and we're willing to train them, whether it's academic or applied. Our third pipeline, I won't get into detail on this, this is medicinal chemistry. This is the one we're going after next. This is the foundation, these are the foundational skills for the pharmacy industry, the pharmaceutical industry. This is more closely aligned now with cannabis. So, Dutchess Community College is again working with us on that. We've been working with a company out in Massachusetts. This is just one more opportunity to give someone something different to do in our community. We are also working on, I think I just skipped over a slide by accident. They're also doing a consortium. They have a grant for hospitality and food and beverage workers at Dutchess Community College, and also a construction management program. The trades, the construction industry has largely been ignored by the academic institutions. So we're bringing this construction management program in partnership with an apprentice program to the college. And now I get back to the reimagining. We went through COVID. We were doing extremely well. We had almost $5 billion in economic activity going on. We had essentially eliminated all the industrial vacancies in the county. Then COVID hit. Just before it hit, we had done a design thinking workshop about what we do next with our economy, because our model was about 6 years old. And my intention was that this would evolve, this would go with the community, and this would go with the times and the conditions. And we thought we knew where we were going. COVID hit. 2 years out, we have to reimagine this all again. We have a different workforce. We have different priorities, and so we're going to begin that process again with a design thinking workshop at IBM, thanks to their support. Now, opportunities. In the town of Wappinger specifically, I've said this to all municipalities that we go into. The county has never been in the position, never wants to be in the position in this administration to tell a community what they should do. What we do is we say, what do you think economic development is? And I bet everybody would agree it means something about like getting a good job, but lower ratables, more opportunities. You know, what is economic development for you? You guys define economic development, and then we come up with the tools. And we have a track record of developing tools in response to our communities and their needs, like the PACE Land Use Law program, where there were communities who needed technical assistance with their plans, their master plans, and so we paid for the PACE Land Use Law Center to come in and sit with the municipality to design and develop what they wanted in terms of their commercial district. So we're here to support you in developing your own economic development strategy or tweaking your existing strategy. We also are willing to work with you on local incentives. The towns, villages, and cities have some latitude as it relates to incentives, and we have the IDA. Now, we are going through a process at the IDA right now to redesign our uniform tax exemption policy, which determines, you know, what the IDA is able to assist. And state statutes also determine what we can do. But they can always be changed. So we're always looking for new ideas. So partnering on incentives is really important. And I'm going to actually come back to you guys, hopefully in a month or so, because those 2 new buildings at the airport, right now you get no tax revenue from them. Technically, because we're an exempt organization, we own it. There's no taxes generated on those green spaces. We hope to build buildings on that, and we want to come up with a policy that the town and the school district have worked on and agreed to, so that we can use it to attract with certainty a business to that location. And the county has always had deference as it relates to the local governments and the taxing jurisdictions on pilots and other incentives. Marketing assistance. So you saw the magazine, well, you didn't see the magazine, but you know what we're talking about. The videos, for Poughkeepsie, we did 2 different videos. We can help you market this community. We can help you market whatever strategies you come up with, whatever ideas you want, whatever you want to show the public, we will help you with that. We have a good marketing firm that we work with at Think Dutchess that brings in news writers from around the globe. Several years ago, before COVID, we had the largest newspaper that's read in China, one of the reporters, the Wall Street Journal equivalent from Germany. We've seen our properties and our programs featured in Cranes, Architectural Digest, Departures, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and these foreign publications. They did a whole piece on Beacon that appeared in a Chinese red newspaper, and they did a whole piece, I think, in Germany on Millhouse Brewery. So we're constantly seeing the results of these efforts, and we're happy to work with you to get them. Now, technical assistance also, I go back to the Pace Land Use Law Center, but also more importantly, and this came as a result of actually your interaction with us, dark leases. We have many of them in our county because there's a company that doesn't want competition. So they make so much money they can afford to pay to keep a commercial space dark. And so our planning and development team issued a report last year that shows how you can avoid these dark leases or how you can fight back against dark leases. So technical assistance is very important. And this is probably the biggest, infrastructure expansion. You can't do anything without sewer and water. Now, you dial back 50, 60 years, and you're like, everybody just put anything anywhere. Today, with the New York State health codes, you can't. You either have to have a municipal system or you have to have enough land in order to properly build something. And that's a problem in our communities. Hyde Park, for example, you'll see vacancies in Hyde Park, and it's purely because they don't have sewer infrastructure. They don't have the space around their buildings in order to build. And sewer and water infrastructure doesn't necessarily mean growth. It can actually be a way of conserving land, because what you're doing is you're focusing the development in a core area, and the other areas get to remain green. So expanding the infrastructure to areas around the airport where we have infrastructure, those partnerships are critical, and the supervisor has time and time again asked us to work with him with the WWA and also Empire State Development. And I won't get into what we've done with the state of New York to get them to understand that infrastructure is important upstate. And then grants. The consolidated funding application process, the downtown revitalization, the upstate revitalization initiative, and the WIA infrastructure grants. These are all things that we can also help you with and work together. And I know the supervisor has been diligent about trying to secure grants, because that water and sewer infrastructure is incredibly expensive. So that's basically our program, some of our economic activity, what we're doing very specifically in Wappinger. And I'm happy to respond to any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ron. Yes.
Thank you,
Any
Ron.
questions? Questions from the board or from the audience as well?
Put them in the line of fire.
Any progress on the land repurposing or the recovery of the contaminated land around the Dutchess County
Thank you.
Airport?
Yeah, I don't know about the contaminated property around
That's
the
the
airport.
stuff that they have all the
Oh.
drains still there since like 1973.
Oh, from the
Landfill.
dumps.
No,
Yeah,
yes.
so those are, we started off, when we did the 2 megawatt solar array, we actually wanted to do a solar array closer to the airport on that land.
That was all landfills.
Yeah, that we were able to do, but the other one, we were told by the DEC we couldn't. But subsequently, the city of Beacon has found a way to use concrete blocks in order to mount these on. So we're investigating. It's just that when we got that first array, there was a nice grant associated with it, and they tried to. There's a lot going on there, and we got burned a little bit, and so we're cautiously going back into that industry, but we'd like to put an array on that same area there.
So that's on the left-hand side of 376, and right where the curve,
Correct.
right? But not on the other side where that's right on the airport where the landfill is, or that's landfill.
There are I wish I could bring up the slide. There are certain areas on the airport that we can't develop on because of the FAA restricts development.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's on the top left, right hand of the corner of your picture. It was those 3 grayish strips.
We got that's our solar array.
That's the solar.
That's the existing one.
But in the other side, right next on the airport side, there's the old landfill that's got all these pipes coming up that's letting off all the methane gas. That's what she's talking about.
That's the one we were denied on first,
Yeah.
but Beacon has found a way to do it. So we just have to
we really got burned on that. That was exhausting when we dealt with that one. But yes, we can do it. We can do it. To your point, I thought you were asking about places like Schatz that we've been
Oh,
paying.
yeah, and Fairchild.
And Fairchild and Wappingers Falls,
Fairchild.
right behind us, right behind the fire company.
So we don't-
It's an old,
We don't own that one though. Yeah.
No.
So
it's
we've
in Wappinger.
we found
Yeah.
but what
But the
properties
county
that we
doesn't own.
own.
Yeah.
The Hackensack Fire District owns that property.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, but it's poison's land, so there's nothing that's ever in the, yeah, because they got it for pennies, because it's poison
Right,
land. You
you
can't build on it.
can't do anything with it.
That's the old Fairchild
Yeah.
semiconductor facility that dumped chemicals. So there's nothing we can touch in that, or?
It's private property.
Okay.
So now it's private stuff.
And we have properties, though, that we have found a mechanism to get into the hands of private sector, to get redeveloped and cleaned up, which before, for 30 years, like, one property had been on our books and we've been paying the bills on it. We've been working hard with DEP, DEC, Department of Health, in order to do this, and we're very close on the Schatz property. So to the extent that that model could be used to the private sector, happy to share the information.
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks.
Are there any intentions to run water down from where you're kind of cut off now by Hackensack Heights Road? You're right around there for the water. Is there any intentions to run it down farther on 376 to help residents, businesses, et cetera?
Absolutely. Actually, Legislator Cappuccini has a business that had poked us, and I am patiently waiting for our Water and Wastewater Authority to give us the less technical version that they were going to put out in response so that I can understand it. And I think, yes, there absolutely is. What it comes down to is you have to create a district. You know this.
Sure.
You have to create it. It's a protracted process. You create a district, you have to determine an assessment, and then you have to get the buy-in from those individuals within that district, and then you're able to go and bond for the money. And to the extent the county can, we've always supported the WWA. We paid for that line in its entirety from Central Dutchess to get there. So that's a no-brainer to me. I'd love to even be able to see it go even further. It's just all about money. But working together, tapping some of these programs that I mentioned at the last slide, and working with the EFC to get funding to help offset the cost on individuals, we're going to do it.
And we've had the same discussions with sewer, extending, right?
That's even more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the problem with New York is that in Albany is New York City centric, and in New York City, water and sewer infrastructure, it's there. It comes out of the ground. It's the birthright, if you will. Up here, that's not the case, and it's frightfully expensive to install. So wherever it isn't, someone's got to pay for it, and it's a huge burden unless you can offset it with state grants and partnerships like we proposed.
So, Ron, thank you for your presentation. Your efforts have been incredible in the county with everything from reimagining how our partnerships exist through the authorities to assisting municipalities with everything from technical assistance to actual infrastructure assistance. Hyde Park being an example that you brought up already, not having water per se, and working to incorporate the Dutchess County Water Wastewater Authority into their municipality obviously is great. I've been here for a little while, and there's certain things that remain stagnant in our town that there's reasons why. And what comes to my attention are the locations like the southeast corner of Route 9 and Old Hopewell Road, where a gas station has been empty for probably 50 years now. Now Five Star, which is adjacent to it, is empty, which opens up an opportunity for a huge parcel collectively. But my understanding is there's DOT restrictions with respect to exiting the parcel, and there tend to be a lot of red tape associated with developing these types of locations into something effective, and not necessarily a gas station, let me just say that. But they're eyesores, and I've been blunt about this in the past, and I will continue to be blunt, that we continue to attract the same thing, car dealerships. We are now the car dealership of Dutchess County, as far as headquarters of Dutchess County, as far as I'm concerned. And the problem with car dealerships is the sales tax goes to the registered owner's home county. It doesn't necessarily have to be Dutchess County. And the valuations on those parcels, in my opinion, are significantly lower than they could be if it was something more tangible than a car dealership. And listen, I understand why we have so many car dealerships, because we have a lack of infrastructure in those areas, no water, no sewer, most notably at 9 in Smithtown, which is a large parcel now that sounds like it's going to be yet another car dealership, which to me is, all due respect to the applicant, we can do better in this town. And how can we attract better opportunities to this town when we have those types of challenges in portions of our main corridor?
So to your first point on the gas station, who owns that?
The owner of that parcel, I think, is the same owner as the plaza across the street now.
Oh, good. It's not us.
Well, now it's a,
Gas station, and then there's an estate that.
yeah, state.
Five stories.
So it's a property owner.
There's two different property owners.
Yeah, the property owner, which I believe has the former Hart Plaza now, so now he's basically staring at the property, but yeah, it's a private owner.
I asked because we didn't own, but we paid for like 5 gas stations when we came in to the administration. And we found a way to dispose of them all and repurpose them. So I was hoping it wasn't one of ours.
No.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't one of ours. Now, if it's a private sector, we really, unfortunately, they're sometimes the greatest obstacle.
Right.
What I'm willing to do on that particular parcel, for example, if you want to bring that owner, I'm happy to sit down. We have bureaucracies in New York State. They're very difficult to deal with. However, in the New York State DEC, the regional director, Kelly Totoro, is really amazing. And I believe she's a resident Duchess. Lance McMillan from DOT, great to work with. I always like to bring these people in and have a conversation because the state is often the obstacle. And they find ways of working around it. Now, sometimes you can't do anything because the property is just too small and
Right.
it's just not possible. But I'm willing to have that conversation, and let's imagine what could be there. So that's on the gas
And
station.
on that, Ron, as we've discussed, we now have, and the board strongly supported taking water and sewer down there. So actually, your help, we have submitted, grant applications for both water and sewer. So anything that the county can do to assist, we have it for purposes of funding divided into phases. But getting water and sewer down there, is going to be a huge plus in changing the development potential of those properties. So again, anything that you can do to help us at the state level would be appreciated.
Happy to. And then on Smithtown and Route 9, Plant Depot?
You're correct.
Yeah.
So, could that be a 4-story building with 150 tech jobs in it? Of course it could. It could. If that's what you want, we have to try and design a way to get to that point. It can't happen without sewer and water. You basically can't even put a bagel shop there probably, unless the land is good enough to
No,
put its own
and
septic system.
public, Department of Health,
Yeah.
water folks.
And we take everything, from
Right.
the state. So, if that's what you want,
Right.
that's what we can design. But the thing is, it really comes down to what I was talking about earlier, the economic development policy and your planning and zoning.
Mhm.
So if you have a particular area that you want to concentrate on, I'd go back to Owen Rafter, planning and zoning, and say, can we resurrect the PACE program? And let's see what we can do to work with them to tell us how you get to where you want to be technically. Because I don't have the experience. And few of us do. They can do that. And then it's not something that happens overnight. It does take years. But you start to lay the groundwork for what you want to see there in the future. And you hold the town and the community to it. So it's a long process. But without sewer or water, and I would tell you that if you're going to invest in sewer and water, you need to have that ratable ready to come in too, because the last thing you want is not the highest and best use of the property.
Right.
And now we just spent all this money on infrastructure and they're not even drawing any water and sewer.
Is there a way to incentivize applicants to run water and sewer from another location in the town?
You mean to a private entity to make them pay for that connection? I'm on TV, right?
Yes.
So,
To ask them?
There are creative ways. You know, you could always say to them, hey, I'm assuming, I'm going to defer to legal, front this, and as we build out this infrastructure, as we get others to come online, we're going to credit you over time on your assessment.
Okay.
And that's, you know, the infrastructure, I assume you can bond in your town for 25 years on infrastructure?
40 years.
40 years.
40?
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah, and let me just say, this is hypothetical here. I mean, there are currently applicants out there for different locations. I don't want this to be misconstrued. We need to be thinking outside the box, and I've said this 1,000 times up here with respect to what exists in our town, what opportunities present themselves in our town. We need progress in our town. And, you know, looking at strip malls up and down Route 9, I don't get a fuzzy feeling about the future of strip malls, although I will say Wappinger Plaza, I see a lot of activity going on there. Let's hope that whatever's going in stays there. But we do have other opportunities in our town where water exists, and perhaps we do need to collectively discuss plans for specific parcels and how we can creatively achieve objectives that are going to be mainstay locations.
So I say this respectfully, because I honestly do not know the dynamic here, and who's done what or when. But respectfully, you know, the town appoints their planning and zoning members. And we're more than happy to come bring county resources and any other resources to the table to have a discussion, a workshop with the town about their vision and how we get everyone to work together toward that vision. We found in almost every town that there is, I hate being on camera, but there is always a disconnect between many of the boards and the legislature, if you will. And there just needs to be communication. This is not unique to Wappinger. This happens everywhere, and Congress is even worse. So, in fact, it's probably the worst. But we're always happy to facilitate the conversation and bringing these professionals together with an open mind and saying, guys, this is what we want our town to be. And I bet there were a few that would probably oppose some of what you're thinking. In terms of improvements and reducing the strip malls and the access on 9, et cetera, and getting good paying jobs, et cetera. So we're happy to bring together everyone, have the conversation. You're responsible for bringing your people from the town, and let's workshop and see what we can do with it. Now, again, it's a long process, but it's worth it. So happy to help.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Well, thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Follow up with you for sure.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
And again, thanks. You know, Ron and the county have been great, you know, with respect to working with us, dialogue. Probably not a week goes by when we don't have some dialogue. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I can do a more advanced one.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, thanks. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing that was set a month ago. This is with respect to a zoning, change. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing the motion passed. Jim, would you just preface this hearing?
Sure. So,
And I see we have the applicants here today,
sure.
too.
Actually, it might be easier for the applicant to make a
Yeah,
pitch.
come on up.
A brief pitch. For the public, this is regarding a rezoning of property located at 189 Myers Corners Road. It is a parcel that's currently used as a farm, and the request is to rezone this from an R40 zoning district, which is approximately 1 acre zoning, to R80, which is a 2 acre zoning. And under the town code, R80 permits a solar farm, which is not permitted in the R40. This is kind of a novel project in that the solar farm is designed in such a way that it permits agricultural uses underneath the solar panels. So I'd like to have the applicant
Yeah. Identify yourself again, but welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm John Capello. I'm an attorney with Jacobitz and Gubitz, and I'm here with Sam Bailey from Lightstar Solar Company, the applicant. I think your counsel explained this pretty well. We're here to discuss, and we've been before the board for several months now discussing the proposed zoning map amendment. This parcel 189 Myers Corners Road, it's located currently in the R40, which is a more dense residential district, but it's sandwiched between a more intensive like commercial overlay on one side and the R80 less intensive development on the other side. Both sides allow solar. R40 is the one district that does not allow solar. So, but this is uniquely situated to provide for it. I know Lightstar is identified in working with farming organizations to ensure that, you know, this is, you talk about innovation, it's a win-win for everyone because it preserves the agricultural use of the property while providing solar, which preserves the earth so you can continue to farm. So we're really asking for here is a zoning map amendment to put this to R80 so then we can proceed to the planning board for the formal application. So, Sam, if you have any technical questions, Sam's here to answer.
I think you answered my questions previously. You know, for folks that may not have been following this, these are solar panels that are raised up in the air, allowing for the soil to be used for farming underneath them. So, and they move. So the sun, you know, controls where the sun hits and everything. I think it's innovative. I believe it's become more popular in Europe at this point than it has here, if I'm correct.
In Japan, too.
In Japan. I think it's coming here. I'd like to see it happen here in the town of Wappinger. And basically all we're doing is rezoning this parcel to the same zone that an adjacent parcel is, which basically is creating a less dense zone from R40 to R80. And I will be supporting this. That's all I have.
So I just have a question for you. Are you going to restore the property to the original state if you decide that you're not going to do the solar farming anymore?
Your application, once we get the zone changed, the next step is to go to the planning board for a special permit. Your code has several special permit regulations that were required to comply with. One of that would be a decommissioning agreement. So not only would it be a plan to restore it to substantially the same condition, but it would also be a security to make sure that if, for whatever reason, the developer didn't do it, the town would have the funds to make sure that happens.
Okay.
I think this is definitely a unique opportunity for the town to explore, and I look forward to it. And what kind of time frame, once you get through all the permits and all, does it take for you to get set up?
So we've been working through our permitting process in parallel with the process that we've been going through with the town board and now the planning board. I think we foresee wrapping up our permitting process with the DEC, New York SHPO, Army Corps of Engineers, early in 2023, and thereafter, assuming that our application is approved by, first here and then in front of the planning board, that we would proceed with construction in the spring of 2023. And that construction timeline is between 3 and 5 months, really depending on conditions. If it's a muddy spring, it'll be slower. And thereafter, that's when the real work starts. That's when the Thompsons, Ryan Thompson is here now, and Sean Thompson go to work with our consultant Ian Ward from Solag and putting a working farm in order and into effect over a period of time. You know, it's not gonna happen overnight, but that's kind of the timeline we're looking at.
And I've seen this work well in Germany and Japan, where the agricultural element and then the energy element. So I think, I've talked with the Thompsons and, looking forward to seeing them, cultivating, the land. So I also agree, strongly in favor of it, subject to the planning board. We are, I think, concerned, not as Councilman Casella said, what happens if, but also concerned about, the degradation over time of solar panels. And I know today the materials are better, of any battery, anything else that could lead to toxicity of the soil. So, be very interested in seeing how you develop that. But certainly I've seen them being highly successful.
Certainly.
Any questions from the audience, since this is a public hearing?
Actually, I think we should, I don't know, did we do a formal resolution? Joe, did we do a formal resolution to open?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We have two.
Yes, we had that.
Hi, good evening. Grace Martin. I live at 52 Philstone Loop in the town of Wappinger. So actually, I'm right down the road from you guys. I really think this is an excellent project. Okay, I am been a gardener my whole life. I like the idea of using solar panels. I'm just more intrigued what you'll probably put underneath those. But I really support this project and looking forward to your success.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We will have later on resolutions to review. So if there's no further questions, comments, so I have a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Okay, now next part of the meeting will be to open the public portion of the meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So if anyone has any, comments they'd like to make about any of the agenda items, then please, come on up. With respect to specific items, I think, such as, the Scout project and the Stray project will have separate items, and so you can also come up and present on that. So, but if any of the general public has any questions or comments, then now's the time to come.
Grace Martin. I haven't moved since 5 minutes ago. 52 Philstone Loop in Wappinger. A couple things I'd like some questions on. Item number 3 is the project update with Dick Thurston and Steve Frazier. Been watching the board meetings for probably the last few. But I guess this is where you're going to talk about the 100+ projects that are on Steve's list. So I think that's kind of intense. So maybe I guess you're going to go over just what are your top 10 priorities, I would guess. But the comment I have about this, listening to things in the past, I have a background in project management and time management. I like to use the car and house analogy. So I know the board has asked questions of what are you going to do on your Saturdays at 4 hours, and what are you going to do with your overtime? Okay. I've been a manager, so when you put in a management request for overtime, you usually say what project wants to get done. So I'd be interested in hearing some of that. The other thing is I'll use the car and house analogy because I've owned a car for a lot of years and a house for 38 years in the residence I'm at. I know it's going to take 3 hours to paint my kitchen. If I have 2 people, it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours. So when these projects are presented to the board, again, unless I foil it to understand it, I don't understand the concept of the projects and how long it takes. So again, I'm curious with that. I know he has a staffing issue and all that stuff, but never before in my lifetime have I heard someone come up and say, I have a project and I can't tell you when it's going to be done. So if you're going to do that for the 10, I'll hang and listen. I just need to understand that. I think that's how we run our lives. If you go to get your car repaired, you know it's an hour for an oil change. It's 3 hours for a tune-up until the guy comes in and says, your hose broke, I need another hour, hour and a half. So I'm just concerned on this long project list, because also any list that's 100 lists long, throw it out and start all over again. I do that in my house, okay? So that's, I'll hang for that. The second thing I'd like to talk about and understand a little more is the updating of the town parking lot. Again, I've watched this, I've seen what's been presented, but I do have one concern. I am not sure if you're aware, again, as you know, I'm part of the Senior Garden Club, and we spent a lot of time beautifying the gazebo with the help of the board, and I appreciate all the help that you've done with that. But if you walk up to that gazebo, that macadam has a divot in it. I would not want to be the bride or anybody else walking up there falling and getting hurt. So if, when you do this presentation on the parking lot, I know you're concentrating on the back where you park the cars, because I was also part of the senior walking club. The lot is in bad shape, I understand that. But please don't forget to fix that gazebo. We spent a lot of time beautifying it, and someone's going to get hurt. So that's a safety issue. So I'd be interested when Mr. Tom comes and talks about that. The last question I have is for Resolution 2022-141. I have no idea what property you're talking about for the emergency order. Was that the historic barn that
Yes.
just built down?
Yes.
Perfect, because that's been a shame that it burnt down, but now I understand. So those are my things. I guess maybe some of these will be answered at the later presentations, but I'm very curious on this long project list. And please fix this safety issue before you guys have a problem. And I know Steve has asked about that once before to try to fix that part of the macadam walking up to the gazebo. So please, I hope you consider that when you're redoing your parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments in the public portion?
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to close the public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Now we'll move to the discussion portion. The first item of Chris was related to one you requested, and
Joey Cavazzini
scout.
has a proclamation for us.
Can you see better now? Okay.
First, I would like to take a moment to thank the town for your recognition of our dear friend Ralph Holt this evening. Ralph obviously was our longtime recreation chairman, and I do feel that he would be excited and supportive of this project before you tonight. Tonight we have Aubrey Lawler, who I have been working with over the course of the summer on a very exciting project. We have seen throughout the country the creation, the establishment of these little free libraries popping up throughout villages and parks and places of gathering. And what Aubrey is presenting tonight is the first two within our town of Wappinger. And in two parks, Robinson Lane Baseball Complex and the Spook Hill Park. So with that, I will turn it over to Aubrey, give her presentation on her Girl Scout Gold Award.
Good evening. I'm Aubrey Lawler. I'm a Girl Scout ambassador of Troop 10153, and this is my proposal for the Girl Scout Gold Project, Little Free Libraries in Dutchess County Parks.
maybe tilt the microphone a little bit closer so they can get it on the
Okay.
system.
Can you go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. So my project plans to build 2 children's Little Free Libraries next to the playgrounds of Wappingers Parks. They'll be made from repurposed school lockers that I have been donated, and then they'll be registered with the Little Free Library system, which I'll touch on later. These are the parks that I would like to build them in. Robinson Lane, I just want to put it next to the playground. Spook Hill, I know that there's a renovation that's going to happen, so I would put it next to the basketball court just so it doesn't get in the way and it doesn't have to be moved. So this is kind of the details of it. That's a sketch of what it would look like. I know it's kind of small. They would be weatherproofed using roof shingles and different methods of stopping the rain and stopping the snow. and any wind that would go. There would be 3 shelves, 0 to 4 years old, 5 to 7 years old, and then 8 to 10 years old, to kind of get that variety, but to keep it children-oriented. And here's the part that I need help from the town. They will need to be anchored into the ground with concrete or something similar, and whatever I can work with you guys to agree on would be great. Next slide. Thank you. So on the sustainability aspect, for the most part, the slogan of Little Free Libraries is take a book, leave a book. So the community kind of maintains these libraries, but I will have younger Girl Scout troops from Oak Grove Elementary School, which is where I went to elementary school, to visit every couple months and resupply and reorganize the libraries. And again, they're just there for the weather. The impact of this, it really promotes civic engagement. Again, the community is working to keep this library going. It's helping with education and children's literacy. It encourages the sharing of books. It promotes outdoor reading, which I personally think is really important. And it's kind of a better way to access books all year round instead of just in a school library. And then there's a organization called littlefreelibrary.org, and it used to be just in the US, but now it's all over the world. It's in 100+ countries, and it's just kind of a way where you can find a library anywhere in the country, and especially in Wappinger. And then the last thing I wanted to ask about is when I do build these, I'm assuming like end of March, I want there to be like sort of a ribbon cutting ceremony, and it's just kind of a community day. And I would invite anyone who's helped me with the project and anyone who's interested to see how the libraries work. And that's my proposal. So.
Very nice, thank you.
Great.
That's great.
Well, we thank you so
Yeah,
much for
support
your
it.
community service. I know our supervisor and the councilman have been very, very involved with scouting all their lives, so we commend you on this project.
Certainly, my late mother would want me to correct something. The agenda says Eagle Scout. This is not Eagle Scout. This is the Gold Award, which is the highest award in Girl Scouting. My mom was a Gold Award recipient. She would be smiling if she was watching your presentation, because this is probably the first Gold Award candidate that I've seen stand before us and give a presentation like this. Certainly, whatever the town can do to support this. If you need, in addition to the mounting of these, if you need assistance with any other resources, let us know. I think this is a great concept, and I think it's great that you stood up and gave this presentation, and certainly you sold me on this, so best of luck to you.
Aubrey, do you foresee any ongoing like financial contributions? We're in our budget planning process, so yeah, I think if there is something that we would need to consider, with respect to that, I know the foundation and Mr. Frazier's here, so he'll add that. It probably means the list is now 200 long, but no, but seriously, if there is something that you think you'd need in our support, not just the moral and other sorts, but certainly financial, we're more than happy to consider something to support you, so let me know.
Okay, thank you.
So when did you say this was, you were potentially looking to put this in?
Sorry, can you say that?
When did you say you were looking to potentially put this in, the different,
So I'm in the process of building them right now, and then in order to get them in the ground, I was thinking like end of March, just for the springtime, so I could have like a community day. Like
so you're using old lockers to do it?
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
yeah.
So after the thaw, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so,
Great.
yeah.
And the ribbon cutting, I'm sure we can
Yeah.
not only support that, but help promote it. And any, Girl Scouts that can attend, it would be a great
Yeah.
teamwork effort to have everyone in one place, certainly.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I or we need to sign anything, just let us know. Come on by.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, Al, you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to introduce Ann LaGoy, where she's going to talk about stray help So basically what it is, we have probably over 70,000 stray cats through Dutchess County, 70,000 that is. And there's a need to see what we can do to try to, trap some of them, neuter them, get them back out into the field, because there are a lot of, again, stray cats. A lot of the shelters are pretty much full, so we're looking for help, but they say that they never say no to anybody that has a stray cat. So again, what we want to try to do is, again, there are a group of volunteers that go out there at nighttime. That's when I guess they find a lot of the strays out there. But this is something that the Dutch County, they brought up the Dutch County legislator, I think Mr. Cavassini, you're aware of this as well. Basically what it is, it's they spay the cats for about $25. They also do the rabies vaccination as well. So I think it's a good thing to have for the town. I know that there's some pretty big, significant numbers in Wappingers alone, but again, over 70,000 plus in Dutchess County. So we wanted to try to bring this, again, to the attention of the residents of Wappingers, that they've done, as well as Dutchess County. So Ann, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So my name, again, is Ann Lagoy, and I'm president of Stray Help, which is an acronym for Healthcare and Education to Limit Population. And we really are all connected. As the first presentation was being made, I recognized one of the folks in the publication as a beneficiary of Stray Help work. So that was interesting to see. We are a registered 501c3 charitable organization, and to date we are entirely funded by private donations and small grants. 96% of our operating budget is dedicated directly to the care of the animals that we work with. We have facilitated the spay, neuter, and vaccination of over 4,600 cats. 945 of them were served in 2021. We are on course to assist over 1,000 cats to receive spay-neuter this year. Our work is carried out by an amazing group of passionate, dedicated volunteers, and we have no paid staff. And some of our volunteers are here, and thank you so much. Our primary program, which Mr. Caselli had spoken to, is our Trap, Neuter, Return, or Place. It's best known as TNR, a nationally recognized humane approach to addressing community cat populations. Volunteers work with property and business owners to humanely trap free-roaming cats. The cats are then brought to a spay-neuter provider. They are held for recovery, post-surgical recovery, and while in our care, they're assessed for placement appropriateness if they are not claimed. You can visit our website, strayhelp.org, for more details on this and other programs that we provide. Another one that we have is our low-cost spay-neuter clinic, and we are actually expanding that program, which is wonderful. Each month, Stray Help volunteers organize a mobile, low-cost spay-neuter clinic. Services are provided by the Animal Rights Alliance, Inc., better known as TARA, on the grounds of Trinity Episcopal Church in Fishkill, and quarterly at PetSmart Plaza in Poughkeepsie. We are repeatedly hearing from pet parents that services are either financially unreachable or not available at all. We did a little digging and found that residents are consistently being quoted between $300 and $500 to spay or neuter their cat, which does not include additional required services, the wellness exam and rabies vaccination, which can add another $100 to that tab. Both public and rescue organizations utilize our clinic. We've served 31 cats brought by Wappingers Falls residents since February of this year, as well as over 200 Wappingers community cats since 2019. It is not unusual for us to receive requests for help from people with 20 or 30 cats on their property alone. Wappingers Falls is home to the second largest project Stray Help has managed to date, over 100 cats at one location, with the last cat and her kittens being trapped this summer. The kittens, by the way, are currently available for adoption. The bulk of that project took place in 2018. This was a colony that it sucked the life out of many of our not only our organization, but every regional shelter who, by the way, because this was such an issue, they actually donated to us to help fund this project. Our organization has been dramatically impacted in many ways by COVID pandemic. The cost of goods and services is on the rise, while the need for those costs, for those goods and services simultaneously rises. The number of friendly, unclaimed cats we are finding during the course of our TNR efforts has increased. Nearly all of them are not spayed or neutered, so we are incurring that cost. In pre-pandemic times, approximately 10% of the cats we encountered were friendly, and they went unclaimed. In 2021, that rose to 28%, and this year, sadly, we're at 35% of the cats we help are friendly, unclaimed cats. Holding this statistic against the types of calls that we get for assistance we receive, we surmise that this increase is a direct result of people's inability to care for their cats, including providing their pets with a spay or neuter procedure. We only work with people within Dutchess County. We give consultations over the phone and everything outside, but we are a local community group. We do not pull from out of state, unlike some other local groups, and we really do help our local community. This is a service that we provide. This is what brings us here today, and I do want to thank you for listening and giving me a few moments of your time. So the details of this particular program is I have a colleague in Orange County from Will Spade Pets. She has offered to generously donate $500 to kickstart this program. They are also a registered not-for-profit. So they partner with municipalities by matching funds. And then that is to help people with pets, but that's also to help community cats, because there are a lot of individuals who see a cat come into their yard. It's not their cat. They want to make sure that it's taken care of. So Diane Decker, president of Will Spade Pets, will match a $500 contribution to be matched by the town. A Wappingers Falls resident can come into the town clerk, purchase a voucher for $25, as long as they show proof of residency. The certificate can be redeemed at the Stray Help Clinic in Fishkill or Poughkeepsie. The certificates are collected by Terra staff who provide the service, and once a month the town is billed $50 per cat for services provided. The difference, the $25 difference between what the resident pays and what Terra gets paid, is split 50-50 between Will Spade Pets and the town. So each entity contributes $12.50 per cat. The $1,000 cumulative fund will assist 40 cats to be spayed or neutered and vaccinated against rabies. Statistically speaking, those 40 cats left unaltered under general circumstances can grow to over 1,300 cats in 2 years. This has an intense impact on the rescue community, who are already struggling under the vast numbers of cats and kittens arriving at their doorstep. Simply put, it is unrealistic and unreasonable to expect shelters and rescues to continue to shoulder this burden alone. We cannot adopt our way out of this crisis. We currently travel on a road of tremendous suffering. Any action taken to assist spay or neuter will help to provide more stable environments and better health for vulnerable cats. Ultimately, we will save resources otherwise spent to trying to stem the tide. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as I like to say. The town of Fishkill began this program in August, and we have already sold 31 vouchers in 2 months. So they have also added it into their budget for next year. So we are hereby formally requesting the town match a contribution of $500 to assist Wappingers Falls residents to spay or neuter their pets or community cats at minimum cost.
So we're actually
Thank
going
you.
through this. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's, Well, I was going to say that it's very near and dear to my heart. I've been involved in Texas, similar programs, and in Taiwan.
Oh, Texas is, boy, oh boy.
Texas
They're on it.
was, you know, very much on
Yeah.
it, but then this goes back a number of years, and then Taiwan as well, believe it or not. But that's to avoid some of the former kill aspects of it.
Yes.
You know, so, and I've talked with Supervisor Albra, and I understand that they've actually donated $1,000.
For next year?
Yes.
All right.
And that's what he told me. Yeah. So I thought I'd propose the same thing as
Yes.
well. I think it's a very, very worthy cause and much better than what we've seen in addressing some of the similar problems we've had in some of our parks, like Reese Park and so forth. So, you know, it's dear to me. The second part of it, in addition to the request to consider some donation that we put into our budget, but what about the public policy aspect? When I was in Texas, you know, we were advised that this is great and what you do is tremendous, but also there needs to be some public policy and public policy awareness,
Yes.
which could in fact mean some legislation by the town board, you know,
Yes.
addressing this. And, you know, the state addresses it through ags and market and some other
Right.
laws, right? And there are a number of communities that have passed some sort of legislation that addresses public policy. And so I was interested in your thoughts, and particularly the cats get there because somebody abandons it.
That's
We
right.
have, you know, code that addresses the dogs, but
That's
we don't
correct.
have anything that addresses the cats. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on public policy, since we're a
How
legislative
much time
body.
do we have?
Well, you know, maybe for now 10 minutes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
certainly
no,
address it so we
I
can consider
absolutely
it.
agree with you. I think that much more can be done to positively impact this and make a difference. You know, there are different programs, you know, the mandatory spay-neuter is a hard sell for me personally. I think that's the way to go. But mandatory microchipping is actually a kind of a workaround, if you will, because if a cat is found,
Yeah.
then, you know, okay, often to get spayed
Right.
and neutered,
Right.
but then the owner is really responsible
Yeah,
for that.
agreed.
You know, it's interesting because.
And that's not all that expensive, and with technology there,
That's
you know,
right.
it's certainly
That's
doable.
right.
And I think our dog, you know, warden does it with respect to the dogs that are,
Yes.
you know, caught, and also we have clinics, so certainly.
Cats are a
we could
little
do
bit
that.
more challenging in.
Agreed, I understand, no, I understand.
But no, it absolutely, I think that there's many things that can be done.
Right.
And education, you know,
Yeah.
it's in our name, really
Exactly.
educating people on the importance. Abandonment of an animal is actually a felony.
Yeah, it is.
But try and catch some, you
Correct.
know, catch that because, for example, and not to take up too much time, but there's a situation that we're dealing with. This happens to be in Fishkill. The person moved, and we're told by several counts that there's upwards of 30 cats
Wow.
that were let out into the neighborhood, and we're now backtracking and trying. I mean, I have
Yeah.
trail cameras up and you know, talking to neighbors, and it is a tremendous effort to try and make up the deficit for people who aren't necessarily
Yeah.
doing the right
Exactly.
thing. However, perhaps this person, had they been educated or given an opportunity for low cost, it could have stopped at 5 cats instead of 30 cats. It happens very quickly, and I think people get very overwhelmed.
I think
Yeah.
we certainly can help with education. We have
Yeah.
different resources in that. Have you seen any model law or something that helps with this area, you know, that you could recommend to us? Maybe council would know too, but.
This area, not so
Not
much.
so much.
We're catching up, hopefully soon.
Well, maybe you can work with us a
But
little.
yeah, there are definitely, in fact, this program in Montgomery, I mean, they're spaying and neutering 200 cats a year. So this program is a good one. But as far as the laws, there are absolutely laws on how to handle cat populations. Yeah, I mean, in Florida, it has some amazing programs, and they have actually, and to speak more of what Mr. Caselli was talking about with the community cats, they have a registry for colony caretakers, and
That's right.
they are offered free spay-neuter this would not be public, but amongst a certain number of people, where are your colonies? How many cats are there? And then if a new face shows up, I mean, that's the key with trap, neuter, return, is when a new face shows up, you get that new face and get that taken care of.
I think, what really pleases me to hear how you focus a lot on when you capture a cat and try to re-socialize it, find a home, doing those things, which is very admirable.
Thank you.
To do that. So I thank you for that, too. Any other comments? Al?
So I'll just make one last comment. So again, as the supervisor said, we're in budget time now, so we'll certainly consider your request. Second of all, I think you have a couple of folks from Wappingers that actually used your program in the audience today. So
And
thank you very much. Hopefully everything has worked out fine for you.
Can I
And
just make one more comment,
Please.
actually? And I missed because I added it on last minute. But I would be remiss not to acknowledge and thank Lost Paws for their focused efforts to help community cats within the village and the town of Wappingers. Stray Help is really south, I call it the Mason-Dixon line, Poughkeepsie. We do Poughkeepsie and south, Stormville, Hopewell. But Lost Paws focuses on the village and town, and they are also a group of amazing people that are only volunteers. I shouldn't say only volunteers. They have no paid staff, but I know, just in personally talking with them, they not only help cats, but they help the residents, and there are some situations where these residents, they've gone grocery shopping for these folks who can't get out. And so we have Kimberly Schmidt who's here. Thank you. So, thank you.
If I
Thank you
could
very
just
much.
make a comment also, and for the attorney, I've always felt that the laws with regard to domesticated animals are discriminatory because, dogs are protected on a higher level than cats are, correct?
Yep.
I mean, we have a dog warden who will only deal with dogs, and
Exactly.
and statutorily, that's all he can deal with. And my position, after hearing your presentation, is, listen, we have a budget allocation for our dog warden. I think we need to look at, from a legal standpoint, how we can provide for either a grant, an annual grant, or something to subsidize the organizations, right, that are actively doing incredible, passionate work out there that often goes on behind the scenes. I mean, I happen to represent Reese Park. I've been there, and I've seen folks from organizations, and I haven't really gotten involved because I don't want to mess up what they're doing, but I see...
That's a good plan. No, we don't
I see a
like
lot of
people messing with
operation
our
going
stuff.
on there, and I just kind of stand back, and I kind of asked around. I said, well, who are these people? It's kind of like this mystery. And it's you folks, and it's Lost Paws, and it's these incredible people, incredibly patient and passionate people that literally are trying to do work that goes unseen 99.9% of the time. So what I would like to see, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree to explore this avenue, is as we head into budget time, we have lines for the dog warden. Can we entertain in the same animal section of the budget, how can we help these organizations meet their mission in our town? Because I think that we have an obligation to do so. Whether it's legal or not, we'll find out. Go ahead.
While, in the last couple of minutes, I did some research and looked at Attorney General's opinions and Controller's opinions. So it's certainly a permissible expense for the towns, valid town charge. One of the things is that New York State has a regime for how dogs should be treated. It's under our Marcus law. Predominantly, the reason why it's in place is to prevent to spread rabies. So, in essence, the dog licensing scheme and the dog control scheme is a rabies prevention mechanism. One of the things that the controls of the AG opinion says is, so a town cannot adopt a dog control law that's different from the state. The state preempts what we can do with respect to dogs, but there is no equivalent requirement with respect to cats.
Okay,
so it's kind of an open playing field. And then Ag and Markets Law 117-A has a program called Animal Population Control Program, which provides state funding to 501c3 entities for spaying and neutering programs, but it seems to be tied to a requirement for adoption. So,
Unfortunately, and a lot of the larger corporations now are moving away from like our work, which is trap, neuter, return, more towards the warm, fuzzy, are you going to adopt? So, and I can share a funny story. So Lynn says to me, well, bring the kittens because they make a nice icebreaker. So I wanted to bring kittens, but kittens were in with their very feral mama who was growling at me, and only one of them was out of the carrier, and as I peeked in, I see two little ears behind mama, and I said, well, I'm not going to reach in and get you. But so those are really predominantly who we deal with is the free-roaming community cats, which, by the way, I know we care for them. We have a feeder here. He's feeding alone 75 cats at least every single day. Stray Help feeds 200 cats every single day. So it's a huge, huge issue. The program, and I'm thrilled to hear the reception that it could be something much more. This particular program is so that residents can come in and buy the voucher, but I would be very happy to come in and work with you. We have experts. I mean, we've been doing this for decades, cumulatively, I don't know, 100 years.
But also, and Jim, Ag and Markets does address abandonment of cats, feral cats. It's like section 374.5, and which is formerly 374.2 and 355, and a number of them addresses it. So, and also calls for some public policy, which is why I mentioned earlier. So as I was saying earlier, and I agree with Councilman Beal and Casella, that we should look at this. I think some legislation as well as, some sort of, grant, donation to balance it with the dogs. So, I think, we can take some ag markets, and I noticed in doing some research that a number of communities in the state have also passed some legislation, not necessarily always that good, but, I think it is addressed, and we can address it.
It can be dicey because, particularly with community cats, we don't want to endanger them.
Right.
And some of this well-meaning legislation actually puts them in harm's way. So, and it puts the colony caretakers in harm's way because technically, some legislations, well, you've abandoned this cat, like trap, neuter, return. In some states is actually illegal to do.
That's right, and that's where we need to have the balance of the right public policy, not to limit, restrict what you do. I agree.
We can't stop what we're doing.
No.
I mean, that's the, basically our dog control ordinance prohibits dogs running at large.
Right. That's not
have to be under control of the owners.
Well, you're not going to walk a cat down the road on a leash, so we can't take the dog.
People try it.
I know they do. Listen, I inherited 2 cats because they came with my wife, so I had to learn all this. I treat them well. They live like kings. They do.
I was wondering where those scratches came from.
That's the wife. That said, you have my word, and I'm sure my colleagues will agree as we go into budget, there's going to be some legal way that we can fairly and equitably look at the entities that are helping this cause and help you meet your mission.
Right.
I agree. Yep, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next item is Steve, you're going to talk about your list.
Oh, geez. How much time do we have?
Yeah, exactly.
About 40
I sent you all an updated project list and where we stand with what we had been looking at. I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing or if you have questions about what I sent you.
I think it's, kind of the priorities and getting back to somewhat of the timeline and how you're going to address that.
It's very difficult to maintain a priority here. All day long, my phone rings with something that is either a infrastructure problem or a safety issue that I have to address immediately. I get pulled off of the jobs that we're attempting, that we have scheduled to do And, we aren't able to keep a schedule. I know that sounds ridiculous to some people, but it's the life that we live here. There was a lack of maintenance before this department was structured, and we're still trying to catch up with that. Currently, the biggest issue in front of me is the toilets next door with the ambulance center. There's been a constant issue here, and the root of the problem is an 80-foot run from the toilet to the septic system. It's a cast iron pipe that's 30-some years old. I had a camera put down, and it wasn't installed properly. There's low spots in it. It's full of rust. So what we did, we put the same toilets here that have a grinder on them that we used in the senior center, and an overhead plastic pipe, which was meant to alleviate that problem. For some reason, it's not working in this location. The solution to that is going to be a sump pump with a grinder in it, larger pipe, but that's going to take some time to install. It means cutting pipe into the floor and the pump, the sump itself.
Is that something that can be vendored out instead of you doing it?
We could vendor it out, but
I know it's going to be more money, but
the vendors that I speak with are all booked out 6 months, somewhere between 3 and 6 months. If I were able to get the materials in, I believe, and if we were able to stay on the job, we could have it completed in about 2 weeks' time.
Let me just say one thing, and this is a good example of something that has caused Steve to get off of the original list. I mean, the night of the award ceremony for the paramedics and EMTs, I'm being pulled aside by paramedics and EMTs that can't use the toilet next door. That's an embarrassment. We're trying to show our appreciation to them, and the toilet continues to fail to the point where Steve had to put a porta-john out there for emergency use, and then I'm getting text messages over the weekend at 10 o'clock at night. It's kind of cold in the porta-john, So, I understand that we only have control of so much here based on a building that was built in 1995 that has right angles. My understanding is underground that go down and up, so I get it. I did talk to Steve and say, can we vendor this out? And Steve feels that he can fix this more efficiently, because ultimately we may have to dig this whole thing up and repipe the whole thing, because right now we're just putting Band-Aids on something that really needs surgery from a building that was constructed 30 years ago. So that's one example of when we have Steve on a number of projects and something like that comes up. It takes a half a day to a full day just to address and diagnose what the problem is.
I was over there this morning till 11 o'clock. Each time that toilet malfunctions, I have to take it apart and flush it, clean it out and flush it, and then get it back in service. Originally, we found that they had been disposing paper towels in it, which is not designed to digest. And they swear that they've eliminated that problem. I still, for some reason, that particular unit over there, and when we allowed them to use our unit directly behind it, both of them clogged. I don't have an explanation for why that's happening.
The state police had an issue with their toilet at one point over there too previously. So
right.
The entire underground infrastructure
and
there.
With that one, we did cut the pipe the whole length of the building and replace
we
it.
just put a ton of money into that building, ton of money, over $1 million into that building. I mean, can't we get it right? I mean, it's like the money pit over there. I get it, the building's old, but every time you turn around, you find something.
Not that old. I mean,
It's very easy to see that it wasn't constructed properly.
There are parallels between the 1985 building we're in right now and the 1995 building over there.
Yeah.
And, we can look back and see what some of those construction methods were and why code enforcement wasn't
So I get it. These are some of the things that kind of take you off track here, but I think what I'd like to do is, very quickly, is at least kind of go through your stuff that Buildings and Grounds can do and see, a status on some of these things. Again, I'm not going to go through every one of these because you have, 12 pages, and I don't want to do that. But if we start off with Airport Park, right? So again, project's done with B&G labor. So this is so I got it. The footbridges are done. you know, the replacing of bleachers and things like that. I mean, don't we have money in the budget for any of that stuff to
I've got
repurchase?
$1,500.
We really need to, so if we have $1,500, I don't know how many that gets, what's it get you, one or
That'll
two?
get you one bleacher.
I mean, we should do it. It's great that you're underrunning your budget, I understand that.
I'm not trying to underrun my budget.
No, I know, but, I mean, what that means is that we're not getting things done in the town, that's the problem, and I get it. You got issues where, you know, you can't get people to do the work, but...
Short manpower.
But that's one of the things we're talking about. If we're going to do the Saturday work, right, the half-days or whatever we're going to do, these are the kind of things that I think that we should be doing and taking things off this list. Replacing a bleacher, pretty simple, $1,500, okay, so you get a bleacher done. Painting of the pavilion, I mean, that's something I think that could probably be done on a weekend. So again, that's Airport Drive. You know, your carriage house, you talked about cameras in progress. When's that going to be complete? That's on the next page.
Well, it's lower on the priority list than some of these other items, again.
It says medium, so.
Yeah, well,
you know, just moving on, grounds, right? So if you look at what grounds are they? We got a lot of dead trees over in Regency that, you know, neighbors have talked to me about.
the grounds is at Carnwath.
Okay. Again, just kind of sticking to the trees, though, you've got here. You said you got a bunch of dead trees there. We got a bunch over at Regency Park. I mean, I know it, manpower and stuff. The pump house, right? So it's got the steel door. It's $2,000. Isn't that a safety issue? The door's not open? Open and closing? Can somebody get into that?
No.
We have no money in our budget to do any of that stuff? To put the door in, order the door, eventually install the door? You know, if I go to Martz Field, which is the next one, it says relocate memorial. It's in progress.
Right.
What have we done so far? We moved the flag post.
The flagpole has been moved. I spoke with Mr. Hawthorne earlier today. We have, you know, we have been speaking with some contractors that may be able to do some of the brickwork for us. But, you know, we come in here and I get reassigned by board members to do other work, and this gets put in on the back burner. You know, these things that you're asking about, we had intentions on getting them done, but then there's other items that come up that, you know, are felt are more important.
No, but what I'm talking about is...
And we have to, you know, I can't do everything at once.
No, but what I'm talking about, if you're talking about work on a Saturday, these are the kind of things that I think that we should be able to look at on a Saturday. If we're going to come people in, you got your basic job you do during the week. I get it. You get calls left and right, but isn't there something we can do here to try to get some of these things done?
The thing is, the most efficient way to do a job is to start it and work it until it's completed. You keep picking up tools and bouncing around town, which is what we have to do now, you know, because of the phone calls that come in all the time. And the jobs all take longer to complete. My idea for Saturday hours was to just work on stuff that we hadn't been able to complete during the week and get it done. The Saturday hours are more productive than the week hours because those phone calls don't come in. I've come in on a weekend myself. My work week is 35 hours, so I have a few hours that I have available to me before I go into overtime. I've come in on weekends to repair machines that we need for the following week, and I'm able to get a lot done because there's no interruptions. And that's how these Saturday hours would work. I would like to just be able to stay on a project until it's done, but that's not the way we're able to function here because, A, we're understaffed, and there's a lot of things that go wrong here.
Robinson Lane, next one, bleachers. I mean, we're potentially going to host a New York State Championship. I think you've seen those.
I've got $1,500 in the bleacher line.
So why don't you ever request more money for those?
Because it gets taken out.
No, that's budget time. Well, listen, we just approved 2 cars in the last couple of weeks here, 2 vehicles, right? One for $33,000, one for $35,000. Those we can get, granted they're needed, but why don't we talk about this? I mean, what my fear is that if we're going to have to host this championship, which is a great thing, and it's a great opportunity for the town. We want this to be a primo location, and we're going to do it for potentially 3 years. So you want to be able to have the things, and it's going to take time to get bleachers, let's face it. With supply chain and everything else, things are taking a lot longer than you normally take. We see that for the fences over at Regency. What's that?
Each one of these bleachers has to be assembled.
Point being is we should be thinking about it now and not June of next year when the All-Star thing starts in July. I mean, those are the kind of things we should be looking at from, down the future instead of, again, a couple months out. I get it, you got a lot of stuff on your plate.
No. What you just said here is the first I've heard about this, whatever it is that's coming to Robinson Lane. I was not aware of that.
I've said this multiple times.
Yeah, we've had discussions on that.
Multiple times I've said that.
You haven't involved me in the discussions.
You've been at the town board meetings when I've talked about it.
So if you need multiple bleachers now, we put it in the budget as a capital expense.
Got to do it, though. You can't. The thing is, you need to do it now because time is of the essence for
that. Prioritize. I mean, listen, guys, we're sitting here talking about an unrealistic goal here. Every time I look at this list, I just shake my head because you cannot effectively manage more than 3 to 20 tasks as a project manager. That is a fact. So if you put 100 out there, it's never going to get done. You got to pick 5 to 7 priorities. You got to have some type of deadline, whether it be seasonal or quarterly, and it has to be realistic. We can't have infrastructure failures occurring here that are diverting our staff on a weekly basis. That's what's happening. I've been consistent in my position on vendoring out whatever we can. Martz Field should be vendored out. Bottom line, that's my opinion. Have a vendor focus on it. We'll find the money to pay for it. We'll get it done. No offense. Don't take anything personal here, okay? Your workmanship is pristine. However, you're only one person, and when the project manager is one of the primary workers, that person still cannot effectively oversee anything if they're buried in the project, right? So my position has been get vendors on these projects, have Steve be the project manager above those vendors, right? So he doesn't need to be there the whole day. There are certain measurements required on the toilet at the emergency services building that I know you're concerned with. He needs to be directly involved to the point where those measurements are conveyed properly and that vendor can get that job done in X amount of time, right? Will it cost more money? Yes, it's going to cost more money if we vendor these things out, but we're going to get things done. And I think that's the value that we see here. I don't think there's a lot of value in sitting here and whether we intend to or not, we're kind of beating the guy up right here. I don't like that approach. I think we need to look at 5 to 7 priorities right now that we need to get to the finish line. And with respect to the Saturdays, I have no problem paying overtime on the weekends as long as we have a tangible outcome, right? As long as we can.
And that's all we're asking for.
Rephrase. Initially you thought I was asking for guaranteed hours. I'm not. I'm looking, if we have a project that needs to get done and the weather is suitable, it'll be, again, weather conditions would dictate whether or not we could work that Saturday. I'm not going to have the guys come in on Saturday and sit around the shop.
Right.
The idea is to start checking some of these things off.
Well, that's so you can paint the carriage house or whatever that was you were talking about. You could construct a set of bleachers on the weekend. Those types of things that we can say, okay, hey, we can justify the overtime because we got that bleacher done, right? We got that carriage house done. We got the stage at Schlott House corrected or whatever. I think that if we associate that extra hours with actual tangible outcomes, then we can point to them and say, okay, they were undisturbed on that day. They were able to get that thing to the finish line. Because I deal with this at my day job, right? I'll start my day with a list of 5 things to do, and 1 hour in, we're planning for, Hurricane Ian. Like, what are we doing? It's like, well, I got to work on this today. But I could totally feel your pain because I get the same type of pressure from above in my job, which is not anything like what you do, but still, it's frustrating. I think that if we can at least focus on the real priorities that we want to see to the finish line. 5 to 7 of those ultimately, at the beginning, and then we budget on the bleachers, right? We budget for bleachers as a capital expense with a deadline ahead of the special event that is coming to the ball fields, and we make sure that they have the man hours or the personnel hours to get those complete, whether it be on a weekend or another designated time.
I don't think anybody was asking anything different than what you said about working the Saturdays hours. We asked for, got to give us defined projects what you're going to do. So that's all I'm asking for. I'm frustrated because probably like he is this is such a long list. and I'm going through a number of
Well,
these.
I mean, my ideas here of what needs to be done are different than some of the board members, and I've asked several times for board members to give me your priorities. In my opinion, infrastructure is more important than anything else here. And I get called away from that to do, some icing on the cake type of work. And again, if I were to go through this and prioritize things, it would be all infrastructure.
Well, why don't you give the board some idea?
I can't do that off the top of my head, but,
No, you don't have to do it off the top of your head, and I agree with the supervisor on this one, that give us a priority where you think, because...
Well, to start with, down at Carnwath, I've mentioned several times that if you intend to save the buildings down there, then the roofs on the carriage house and the admin building need to be addressed. And you've asked me to get updates on pricing. I've done that 3 or 4 times with the same vendor. I can't keep asking these guys to come back and give me...
So why don't you, in the next meeting, give us a prioritized list of what you think should be prioritized, right? And we can take a look at it.
Well, the ones with the H are my
But there's some things that you may have that we may not necessarily agree are priority, but let's just take a look at what you think is, because you're closer to it.
And I've asked Steve during the budget process, as we're looking at capital or other things, and he can further identify. It's just like, I know the challenge, he used to use Baisley to do all the tree work. He's out now, out of the business.
Yeah.
And so now he's trying to find that. So, but I think, Steve, we could talk some more about the priorities, and this is your list.
Yeah.
Also, the other challenge that Steve has is that much of his team is pulled off on other activities, like Community Day, right? So they're not able to get done. They're pulled out of, the manual work.
We're responsible for setting up every special event. I have a list of, I don't know how many items are on it, but it's a 2-page list of things that we need to do to prepare for Community Day, which is, 2 weeks away?
Yeah.
Yep.
And after that, then you're going to have your Halloween thing at Schlott House that we're going to need to do prep work for. But behind that, I got to start doing the Christmas display for the lighting ceremony. And, from like mid-August to the end of the year, we're tied up on special events.
So,
Steve, like the councilman said, I think you give us your priority. I don't think anybody was questioning prior to you working Saturdays, but after you work a successful Saturday, let us know what you did.
Well, we can do that for sure.
Right, that's
I'll
what-
certainly be
because I
able
don't
to
think
do that
anybody's
for you.
criticizing you and saying, well, what are you going to do on Saturdays? Well, you don't know what you're going to do in 3 Saturdays from now. Just let us know what you did. And
I can do that with no problem.
how short-handed are you?
I have had 3 positions open all season long.
And you have one other position that's challenging, right?
Right, and the help that I have on hand are not skilled. Well, they'd have to be working outside their job title to start with, but they don't have some of the skills that are required to do a lot of this work. And, I would like to get more help here that are skilled enough to do this work, and we can start knocking these things out.
This is my thought. I don't think the board would say absolutely not, but if you present it to the board, I need 3 of X, and this is what it's going to cost, let us make that decision.
I've done that.
He's done that. The problem is he can't get 3 of X. That's the problem.
yeah, it's not just us. Town of Fishkill just did a post today. They can't get people to do the same jobs. And I mean, it's across all disciplines, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I've had 3 entry-level positions open all summer.
Right.
That's part of the challenge here.
Yeah.
That's why I say,
I can't tell you how many hours I got invested in trying to find someone to fill those positions.
I can't imagine. But that's why I think there's also value in going through your list, identify what could possibly be vendored, right? And I know it's going to cost money, but if we can get to the finish line on these projects.
He's got that on here. It says projects to be contracted, so he's
Okay.
got that already.
And
So,
I have put priority letters to them, too.
but we could do some of the things that are on things that Buildings and Grounds
That's what I'm
does. So you
saying.
could actually maybe move them to
that's
contracted
what
as
I'm
well
saying,
and take a look at that. It means, listen, let me just tell you why I'm a little bit frustrated, because, you have residents calling saying, hey, when are things going to get done? They're looking for an answer. And so all I'm trying to do is provide them with an answer to say,
There's
this
nobody
is...
here that's more frustrated than me. I go home at the end of the day and I feel like I failed. and I don't like that feeling, because we haven't been able to accomplish what we were setting out to do in the morning. And it just, you know, it's the environment that we're dealing with.
Well, you can only do so much in 35 hours, and that's why I support additional hours.
Well, they are working a regular 40-hour work week.
I'm sorry, okay, 40 hours, right.
And overtime.
Okay.
Please. I'd also like to know what can be vended out on that list. I want to Steve and then also to the board, what do you think that can be vended out, please? Thank you.
I couldn't understand.
So I think what she's asking is, in addition to, like Councilman Cancel said, in addition to the ones that you've identified as contractual jobs, is there anything on your list that's assigned to buildings and grounds that could be vendored out? I think that's what the councilwoman's asking.
I'll take a look at it, and I mean, in reality, they all can get vendored out. It's just a matter of the expense and
So
the
I think what we want to do is we want to take a look at some of the bigger projects that's going to take a lot of your time, your staff's time, and those are probably the ones that we want to do it, because maybe they can redivert some of their workload on to do something else. So if you got a project you think is going to take 2 or 3 months, maybe that's something that you could do today, but maybe you vendor out so that you don't take that 2 or 3 months and you reapply yourself to other projects that are part of things that buildings and grounds can do. That's all.
I'll take a look at that. I don't have an issue with that. At this point, I'll do anything to lighten our load.
Okay, well, thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, is Tim on? Tim Mood on?
I'm here, yeah.
Okay, Tim, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How's everybody tonight?
Okay.
Doing good.
The item now we're discussing is update us on the results of the survey of the parking lot and what you've determined to be the challenges there.
Right, so we completed the geotechnical drilling around the parking lot. We, based on our discussions with the board, chose to drill around the entire lot to consider future development or improvements. I heard a comment tonight about the pathway to the gazebo, so we should probably consider that in our final scoping document. But just real quick, I mean, basically we found varying degrees of pavement thickness from 1.5 inches to 9 inches thick. It was about 9 inches thick was in some patched areas. On average, it was about 3 to 6 inches. The subbase, which is generally like a type 2 subbase, which is a crushed kind of limestone, or bank run gravel, was varying in thickness, and that was about 2 to 10 inches. And in some cases, there wasn't even like a subbase that we would normally see. It was more like millings. So, and then we had varying depths of bedrock. There was exposed bedrock and shallow depths out front. So we had a varying degree of subsurface conditions. We have sort of a metric on how we approach replacing the pavement. I know early on we had discussions where Mike talked to Clove, and I just saw Jim stepped out. But the question I had for Jim was, even though Mike and Highway can use Clove, is he allows to use Clove off of the list for improvements that aren't town roads. And then speaking with Mike, is there a possibility that Highway could assist with some of the subterranean work? Because I guess under Mike's initial quote, Clove was going to come in and mill the pavement, and then Mike was going to address the subbase, and then Clove would come back and pave. I'm thinking it's a similar type approach that we could contemplate, but there'd be some additional stone, drainage stone, we call it a blanket drain, that would go underneath the subbase. The dumpster area is in pretty rough shape. It's going to require a heavy-duty asphalt section there. There's probably some minor drainage swales that need to be excavated along the back. It's like behind the dumpsters. The septic leach field is there, and that's one of the worst areas. Probably in conjunction with the heavy-duty garbage truck, and maybe additional drainage that's coming off that field in that corner that wants to kind of make its way to the opposite corner. So we're still in the process of making a scoping document on all these things, and have quantities on there, but, you know, I don't see necessarily this being a full-on reconstruction project happening this year. Maybe even talking to Clove, there's an outside chance that you could work on the back area. That might still be a possibility, but we have to go big on all this stuff. It's definitely an extra project.
So one of the things with Clove, right, there's a short window to be able, because right now Mike has worked out a deal with them. There's a very short window for them to be able to, again, pave that, because there's little additional services they owe us. We'd end up paying for the asphalt. So we should probably check with Mike and see how close that window is, because again, if we can use that, it'll save the town some money doing that. So how do we get that information, Tim?
Is Jim back here? 'Cause
Yeah, Jim's back.
if Mike's price quote is for highway use only, or can we use their price for any town project?
No, you could use it for any town project, I believe, if they're, you know, if they agree to it, sure.
Yeah. So I talked to Mike and I talked to Steve, so I think, you know, another thing I had is Steve's list, but I could talk to him with Flo, and we could go over the scope and figure out collectively who can do what. You know, Mike was instrumental in doing the parking lot there for the 911 memorial, and to me, it would be a similar type effort, but I realized it's a different time of year, and I'm getting to be later, so, we can have further discussions there, and then we also were looking at possibly redesigning the parking lot and the entrance and bringing the water main in, so, again, I think we should focus on the back and then maybe a repair area for the gazebo based on the comments at a minimum.
And maybe fix that divot too, over there by the gazebo.
So, I mean, the only thing is that typically the blacktop plants usually close the first week in December. So, correct, Tim?
It's generally, I say Thanksgiving and Easter, but it all depends on the season.
Yeah, so, I mean, whatever it is, the paving, you know, I mean, what Tim had suggested.
It's just maybe a tight window.
Right.
Yeah, especially since the subbase is going to have to be rebuilt in a lot of it.
So that's the issue, and I don't know if you want to leave, you know, the parking lot not.
I'm sorry, we don't have good audio, I'm sorry, Jim.
Sure.
From a safety perspective, should the parking lot be cordoned off where it's unsafe? Jim?
I mean,
I think it's not unsafe.
Yeah.
I think we need to do some temporary fixes to the gazebo area. I think there's plenty of parking availability. If it was a concern, we could certainly cordon off the back area and we did that to drill. And I don't think there was a parking issue for the town. But before we go that far, I think we should try to see if there is a way to come up with a plan to get it done in the short term.
Thank you.
So, Jim, is there any other need for doing any bidding of any sort on this case? You know, since there's other work that's going to be beyond, I think, Clove's scope.
the question becomes whether you're going to do the excavation work in-house or you're going to sub it out.
Yeah.
So to the extent it exceeds 35,000, you'd have to get, you know, competitive bids. And you'd have to prepare bid specifications, more importantly.
So even though there's money left over from Clove, which would probably, if they were to do it in total, probably would exceed 35, they have kind of left over from what we had from the highway funds. We paved all the roads, so there's some money left over. So does that still have to, if they were able to do that, it's kind of almost in-kind work. So does that also apply?
Apply to?
So my point is let's just say, for example, you said let's go out to bid for 35,000.
So with respect to Clove, I mean,
Yep.
the work that Clove basically, they have bids for, and I don't think they typically, their bid is not for blacktop. Blacktop is a separate bid, is my understanding.
Yeah, Mike's buying the blacktop.
Mike's buying a blacktop.
So Clove has equipment rentals with and without, you know, labor. So that's what the Clove job would be. But I mean, I don't know the extent of, their excavation work, but typically, those, and there probably are some, the machinery rental schedule that, the county does is for, an excavator with an operator at such and such an hour, and then there's a mobilization fee, or, a D9, or, whatever it is. It's a particular piece of equipment, and then they have an hourly rate. So that's the way you typically bid those jobs. So to the extent that, Clove does, whatever they've already, done for purposes of the bid that, they had submitted previously for that work, you don't have to go back and rebid it. And if you want to get different equipment from Clove or somebody else, the county has, bid specification. They did last year. I haven't looked at this year's bid spec, so I don't know. But, again, the bid specifications are for a particular piece of equipment with an operator for a certain period of time. But, you're going to have, CPL, do drawings and stuff and give some direction as to what work needs to be performed.
Yeah, we would come up with a drawing, detail, quantities, and really, talking to Mike, theoretically close to what would be building the parking lot like Newell Road and providing paving in Newell Road, maybe in different thicknesses and what have you, but that would be expected by us. So the milling and paving would be by close, generally in their scope, and if highways is going to help, there would be additional excavation, places of stone, and places of fabric. Which, again, they assist with the denying more parking lots. So what we're asking isn't too far out on that, other than likely taxing the parking and having them be available to assist. Other than that, we have to put together bids that, and again, we don't float, but we need more for the rest of the year right now. So, and then have to be bid, and amounts to get bid, the whole package put together and bid, and the work done by Thanksgiving.
So how quickly can we turn it around, I guess is the question, because if things do close, the factories close by Thanksgiving, we've got a short turnaround time now.
My guess is for all the work that has to be done, including the subgrades, drainage, everything else, that doesn't look like it will get done within that time frame, including the bidding now. And that's the real challenge. We don't have much of a window. We have a month and a half. I mean, certainly Tim should go and talk with Mike and Clove and figure out what it is and report back to us, but
yeah, you can send us an email, and if you talk to, like Supervisor said, Mike and Clove, and see if we can get this thing back, and I don't know how long it takes, a week, 2 weeks, because we should be able to get this thing moving forward if we can this year. I'd hate to lose the opportunity we have with Clove right now, because it's only going to be more expensive next year.
But Tim, can Clove do, say, the front and the two side, the area that needs the most work, correct, is the back, that whole area, correct?
Yeah, we're thinking the back from the edge of the parking to the curb by the generator area. They do true leveling on the path and then it's slow.
And that's where the back is where the drainage problems principally lie, correct? And the sub-base issue is there. Right.
A better walkway to the gazebo will only be quote-unquote temporary until we decide to hold on. It would just make it better.
But the other parts, since you did the whole perimeter, other parts of the lot are have issues. So perhaps you could, not as bad. There you have some building and perhaps certainly the paving, and perhaps that's where we could put Clove to work. If necessary, to take advantage, as Al says, of the benefit of some additional monies that they have unspent. That's, you know,
So when we try to propose this week, it was
right.
Okay.
So let's see what they say, if you can reach out to them, you know, this week and get back to us with several options perhaps. You know, the entire lot, front and side, back, you know, next spring, you know, something along those lines, just see.
Tim, how much drainage needs to be done back there?
like Angela said, the acoustics are really good at how much
Drainage
what was that?
needs to be done in the back.
So it's really along the back. So there's no way for the water to go because it's so flat, and you have the wetlands back there. So the geotech engineers suggested building what's called a drain lane, not necessarily putting in under drain pipes or anything, but we could use like a geotextile fabric, so clean ones and two stone, and for lack of a better example, build like a lasagna. So the lower layer in the lasagna will allow water to sort of transmit and get to that lower corner. And then we add another layer of geotextile, and on top of that, we build the sub-base of asphalt. So it's trying to build a better foundation under your root section and allow for drainage.
A lot of work.
And it doesn't have to be that whole distance. It could really only be, say, this drainage like I'm talking about, like say 5 feet in from the edge of the pavement. Because if we go out there, you'll see where all the divots and the weeds are in the pavement. That's the area that's suffering for lack of drainage.
And that's the area that's classified as wetland, so that's why the issue arises. Plus, some of the drainage ditches, like going alongside of the septic field and so forth, are
And
issues.
the whole dumpster area is kind of like, totally reconstructed. That would also, we recommend adding what's called the base course asphalt, so that's like a larger aggregate, with the asphalt, so it's a base, a binder, and then a top in that dumpster area.
Okay, so then go check with, you know, Mike Clove and get back to us, let us know. Okay, Tim? Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Next item was tennis court.
Yeah, so I think we can combine, Joe just left the room, but I think 5 and 6, it's an issue with Minitrax where it separates them, the two items, even though there's only one item really we're going to discuss here. So we'll just combine items 5 and 6. So we have two bids out here for opportunities to fix the tennis courts. The one is from Craftco. Craftco last time put an estimate in of roughly $59,000. Last meeting, we asked that we get a second vendor to do that. I believe, Steve, you did that. It's called Sport Tech. Their bid was $69,200, so it's around $10,000 more. But what I was hoping you'd be able to do is tell us are the equivalents, and if one's doing more than the other, and we can try to hopefully pick the best one and move on the courts.
The difference between the two, as it was explained to me, is the Brewster Company, Source Tech, I believe, is it that name?
Sport Tech. Sport Tech.
They would put a fiberglass mesh over top of the cracks and areas needing attention, and then put the final surface over top of that mesh, where the Craftco would be routing out cracks and the other areas that are compromised and filling them with a suitable type filler, and then doing an overall coating. Speaking with Tim earlier today, he's seen instances where the fiberglass has separated or not blended in well with the pavement after the job was completed. So his recommendation was the filling of the cracks, which was Craftco. Both of these companies are Sourcewell contractors, which means and we're Sourcewell subscribers, which means that they're pre-approved by the state to move forward with.
And I know we use Craftco over at the Challenger field as well. They did the infield. Okay. So I want to make a motion that we award the bid to Craftco for the $58,696 to go ahead and fix the tennis courts. So that's all 6 tennis courts that we have out there. Again, we would expect them not to do it now, but certainly in the spring, as Tim, we talked about previously. And I think this is a good fix rather than spending probably $150,000, $200,000. And this is supposed to, is there a guarantee, Steve, how many years this is going to last? Or Tim? Tim, Craftco? What's the warranty on it?
I don't know what the warranty on either one of them was. I was just looking for this picture
Okay.
of the patch. Let me try to show you, share my screen if you want to see it. But my concern, I literally was at a tennis court today looking at this. I don't know if I can share my screen. If not, I'll send it around. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is an old pad, it's not obviously new, but my concern when they do the patch is you're gonna have a larger wearing surface. You can see the crack in the background. My thoughts are to just stick with filling in the crack like Craftco wanted. When Steve first got the Craftco quote, they got a lot of the schools I've been involved with. They did Robinson Challenger Field. And I mentioned Nagel, so Sportech does Nagel. It's a different type of product. I say it's like Pepsi-Cola and Coca-Cola. They each have their own kind of trademark kind of thing going on. But at the end of the day, I think you can start doing these like larger patches or what have you. It's just over time, it's going to look worse than if you just try to fill a crack.
Okay.
We can get back to them on the warranty, but generally, what they do, maybe you have to come back and reseal a crack in 5 years, but their coating should be good for 10 years.
So do we want to verify that before?
This particular tennis court, the substrate is off, it's going to have to be replaced. It continually moves, and cracks separates, and gets worse and worse. I don't think they have that problem.
So should we wait to find out what the warranty is on it, or should you think we should proceed?
Is there,
We could ask for warranties, we could ask for pictures of like before and after of each product, just to make sure we're talking apples to apples. But my gut is at the end of the day, sticking with Craftco, you're saving about 10 grand, right? So you're resurfacing some tennis courts, and it's not like you're high school playing championship like competition on these things. But if you really wanted to dive down into it, we can keep looking. I mean, we got till spring for both companies.
I think there's a motion though on the table.
Yes.
Yeah, so I made a motion to approve the $58,696.
Just one last question. If we wait, which we've been doing for months now on this, will the price go up?
well, the question is, does the contract permit you to put it off, or does it have to be?
Yeah, because we've been talking about this for months now, and it's a lot less than we originally thought of getting it totally resurfaced of 100 plus, right?
I think both contractors were planning to do it next season.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to do it now, not with the winter
But Steve,
coming up.
I think, from a contract point of view, is there any price increase?
Well,
for
you
this?
certainly would lock it in if you, but my recommendation, if you're interested in warranty,
Yeah, that's what, can we find out that?
and the work is not going to be done until spring, let me get you that information for the next meeting, and you can make your decision there. I don't anticipate the price would go up, between now and then. I can get you that information. But, you're welcome to make your decision tonight.
Well, I mean, essentially, if it's going to be done in the spring, we can get the information we need and put it in the budget.
There you go.
And that's going to codify it to get done.
Right.
But again, I mean, I'm dealing with contracts at work right now that are 7-day quotes. because,
That's what I'm dealing with as well.
Yeah, so-
I had a 40
So
quote.
I almost rather wait for another 2 weeks, find out what the warranty is going to be. 2 weeks
Yeah.
is not going to change anything. Let's do that. So, I'll take the
I'll get
motion
that
to
information
approve
for you.
that. So if you can get that for me in 2 weeks, let's do that to be on the safe side. Let's hope it's a 10-year warranty, find out what it is. Again, it's not going to be done until next year, so no need to rush on this one.
and this is for 6 courts, correct?
Yes,
Correct, all 6.
So it's under $10,000 a court, based on that 58.
that's correct.
That's the only place we have courts?
That's what the quote is, right? For
But I mean, do we have courts anywhere?
No.
No.
That's it.
So 4 and 2. All right. So I agree with the consensus. I am leaning towards approving this, but I think we just need to get the answers to our questions.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to approve it. I just want to make sure we get an answer on the warranty. So let's just do
get
that.
that
Let's be
information
safe
for
and then
And double check on the price, right? Make sure that it's
make sure that
solid.
doesn't
Right,
change.
yeah, I'm pretty certain both of them would lock in at this point. But
Okay.
they both had intended on doing the job next year.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Yeah.
Hey, just one last question for you on the courts. Did you purchase, somebody asked me if we had a scrubbing machine. Did we do something in 2019 for the courts?
We had a scrubbing, we got a floor scrubber that proved to be pretty ineffective at getting rid of the algae.
Okay. All right, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Jim, the next item's on the salary proposal that you had.
Can I make a recommendation on that one?
talk about this
Can we talk about it, because it's personnel and salary? Do you guys want to do it in executive session? I mean, I'll leave it up to the board, but this may be one of those
Jim,
ones.
is it appropriate for executive session under the list?
Well, this is just something, I mean,
Yeah, it's not on individuals, it's the
I
concept.
had a question about the individual.
Okay.
we can talk about it in attorney-client session.
Again, I'm not saying I'm not going to approve it. I just want to,
And we're not in a position, I don't believe, to approve it right now because I don't have all the details.
okay. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you got something else you want to say. go
No.
ahead.
It was Jim. Okay. So that's the last item on the discussion topic.
Okay.
So we'll move into the resolutions. The first resolution is 2022-138, resolution authorizing the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings regarding New Hackensack Realty LLC. Jim?
This is a building up on New Hackensack Road, and so there's no reduction for 2020 or 2021. In 2022, there was a reduction of $137,500. If the board approves it tonight, I think that it would be in place for the roll, so there's no refund due.
Yeah, it looks like it had an increase in '22, and they reduced it back to what
Yeah,
it
that's
was.
exactly where I was going. What happened?
Exactly what it was.
So it's probably reassessed based on the increase in the market, and then they argued it, and it's going back to what it was previously.
This is a medical building, I believe, if my recollection serves me correctly, which frankly,
So if we approve this tonight, the 2750 would be effective for 23 through 25? 2023,
yes,
doesn't it?
yeah, so that's the pursuant to RPTL 727, any settlement of a tax cert proceeding is good for 3 years, provided that there's no changes to the structure.
Yeah, I'll move this.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Next resolution is 2022-139. This is resolution adopting negative declaration for local law number blank of the year 2022 entitled "A Local Law Amending the Town's Zoning Map for the Purpose of Rezoning a Property from the R40 to the R80 district." Joe, do you have a number for the local law? 139. Thank you, sir.
No, the local law would be, is it 6?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. What's the number of the local law?
The local was, no, we don't have a, that's what I filed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. Okay. So do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
So can we just do one thing on this one? Right now, the town board is the lead agency. Can we make the planning board a lead agency for seeker?
No.
No,
It's a zone change.
Zone change.
it's a zone change.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2022-140, resolution adopting local law number blank of the year 2022 entitled "A Local Law Amending the Town's Zoning Map for the Purpose of Rezoning a Property from the R40 to the R80 District."
Move. I'll move it.
Second.
Just for the record, the Dutchess County Department of Planning said that this is a matter of local concern, and they requested that they be provided with a copy of the resolution and the updated zoning map after this is adopted.
Right, and that's the form that we handed out. Okay, motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2022-141. This is a resolution ratifying emergency order of building, resolution ratifying emergency order of building inspector to remove the building at 2372 Route 9D, to remove a building at, oh, I guess that's a duplication. So remove building at 2372 Route 9D.
I'll make that motion, and also, we just had our Emergency Services Awards, and to all the members that were out there, again, thank you so much for your service.
I'll second it.
Before we vote, I just want to read in the record a thank you from the owners who stopped by today. Thank you for the extraordinary work and care on September 22nd, 2022. The sad night when a car crashed into the barn, causing the fire on our beloved Red Barn on Route 9D, Houstonville Hamlet. It was devastating to watch our recently renovated barn turn to ashes, but we wanted to thank all the people involved in the hard work to save adjacent houses. We are relieved that no one was seriously injured. We are very grateful to Mr. Thurston, Mr. Bill, Ms. Deo, Mr. Sheehan, Mr. Flynn, Carl, Mr. Cavassini. The support you all gave us that terrible morning is something we will never forget. And sincerely, Peter and Rebecca Bleekman, the owners.
Obviously, it was a tragedy to lose that structure. Yet another Hamlet architectural gem, which has been there since when, 1865 or something like that?
That's what she said.
But it was a situation in which an individual was irresponsible. He's been arrested for DWI now, crashed into that building, and within 4 minutes, which is when I arrived, the building was 75% involved in fire and already structurally unstable. So in an effort to save the adjacent residents, which I didn't realize was hers, we had to focus on the exposure control and monitor the potential collapse of that building. It was obviously had to be taken down. There was a mechanism in place by which the town, code enforcement by order of the town supervisor, can utilize external resources to raise the building so that it's not a hazard to firefighting operations and to the public, and that had to be done. There was no option there. I'm not a big fan of bringing an excavator into a fire scene, but there was no way that could be put out unless that building was taken down. So it's my hope they can repurpose some of that wood, which is still there. And certainly our thoughts with them on their loss of their property, but luckily nobody's life was lost that night. The subject was unconscious and pulled from the vehicle by a passerby and state police. If he was not, he would no longer be with us. So we did have one firefighter who had a medical issue on scene. He is fine, but those types of things do happen. Luckily, nobody was further injured. But
exactly.
And they did mention today that they do plan to repurpose, salvage what they can. I suggested, based on some experience they had, that they could also have a fundraiser based on some of that material. So they're going to be considering that. Just because of this resolution, I mentioned that they advised me today that in fact they received a copy of the state police report on the accident, and it's been submitted to their insurance company, who then will be contacting the owner of the vehicle. The driver did not own the vehicle, but they'll be contacting that insurance company, and we know how those things often go. But that process is in place to try to get some insurance relief.
We're just lucky that individual didn't hit another vehicle. There was evidence that he crashed into some other items north of that and south of that scene. There were car parts in the roadway, so he struck some other items, took the pole, split the pole in half. Luckily, the wires stayed in the air, but they were still alive while we were trying to put that fire out. So shout out to Highway Superintendent Mike Sheehan, who we called initially to identify a vendor that could get out there, and the vendor, Town of Wappinger vendor, actually did an incredible job. It's not easy to take a building down in a fashion like that, but anyone that was there was pretty impressed with that operation. So thanks again for the town support.
Welcome. Jim, any other comments just on process procedure with
No,
respect
just, one of the things that we could maybe in the future look at our code regarding emergency situations. It's kind of weird in that the emergency situation, as depicted in the code, requires the action of the town board, which is almost impossible to do at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, I crafted the resolution to ratify the actions that were taken previously. We may want to look at a code provision with respect to that. And this is also drafted so that the owner of the building has an opportunity to get the insurance to cover it rather than the
I
town.
explained that today, and they apologized for not being here. I said there really wasn't a need. They had to be in New York City, but they wanted to extend again the thanks, as I read in the note, but orally to everyone that was involved. And I agree with Chris with respect to recognition in the future with respect to that entire operation, which was significant. So there's a motion and second, I believe. Mr. Clerk, correct?
Yes, moved by Ms. Fuller, second by Ms.
Okay. Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. We had added a couple of items, several, resolutions at the request of Councilwoman Bettina. And Angela, are you able to, do you want to speak on that, or for us to go ahead and address this? Okay. Well,
The audio is really, really bad. I really just want to say thank you to the board that we're going to recognize this. I don't even know if you can hear me.
Yes, you're fine now.
I think it's both things are very, very important to our community, and I want to thank our constituents. So thank you, and I also want to say Happy New Year to our Jewish friends also. So thank you.
So Jim, with respect to the resolutions, didn't have time to prepare it, but I get basically we can do it. First is a resolution acknowledging and recognizing Columbus Day, and I think last year we actually had a combined resolution, as I recall, for Columbus Day and Indigenous peoples, right? Do we want to follow that same procedure this year? We could probably take the same resolution and modify it for this year.
Sure.
Angela, is that okay, or?
I can hear you.
Okay. So if that makes sense.
So I'll move that we adopt the verbiage from last year's resolution for the purposes of recognizing Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day.
And also for National Hispanic American Heritage Month.
Heritage Month, which is September 15th through October 15th.
I think those would be two, we didn't
do that one last year. The first one we did.
So that's going to be a separate then?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did Hispanic Month too? Oh, okay. So we can model that off of both. But let's have two separate resolutions, one for Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day. So is there a motion?
I think Bill made it, right?
Bill,
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. And the second one will be the resolution acknowledging, recognizing National Hispanic American Heritage Month, which is September 15th through October 15th.
I'll move it.
Second. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item, and thank you, everyone. The next item is the acknowledgement of the correspondence log resolution 2022-142.
Motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is any items for special consideration, new business.
So just a quick one. Do you have an update by any chance, Tech, on the Wi-Fi out at Robinson Lane? And we make
They
any
have
progress?
not returned calls or email. I was thinking that maybe, Bill, we can lean on it from the government relations person for...
Is it Optimum?
Optimum, yeah, which is a parent company we have to address. So yes, I kept trying now.
Well, we have the government affairs rep we can reach out to.
Right.
Are we sure it's not Frontier out there, though?
No,
No, it's all.
It's not?
it's
okay.
it's not.
Oh, it is?
That's Altice is what.
I was impressed that we got them to change their sign on Sergeant Palmetier Way. I think I believe Barbara Roberti was responsible for that. They had the old Route 9 address on their brand new sign.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, they changed it to Sergeant Palmetier Way. I was surprised to see that. But we can reach out to them and see what the deal is. I mean, it's a public safety issue. That's the concern.
And also, you don't want to jeopardize New York State tournament, because that's one of the things they requested that we have out there is Wi-Fi. So again, we want to try to get that.
I think if you get, as a backup, there's a way to get a jetpack out there to provide Wi-Fi in specific areas. I know that we use jetpacks, which are basically, Wi-Fi that runs on cellular. We use those for our mobile pod sites when we did vaccinations and things like that.
There's no cellular service out there.
Okay, again, that would be dependent on cell service.
That's a problem.
You can get an AT. You can also look at entertaining, and I don't know if there's cell service for AT&T, but AT&T has their version of a jetpack. We can look at this offline and see what options exist.
I think at one point in time there was a landline.
Yeah, there was at one time.
It was.
It doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work anymore. No connection to it. So.
I think it was a rotary dial.
Yeah, well. I mean,
It was out there when Bill played at Robinson Lane.
That's right, back in the 80s.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I just want to say thank you to the town board and thank you to those that attended the Town of Wappinger 6th Annual First Responder Awards, which we held here on last Sunday or a week ago Sunday. Of course, we had a well-attended audience, and then, of course, there was a fire alarm activation in the middle of it, so we lost a third of the people for a little while. But I think it's important that we take a moment and recognize individuals that often don't get recognized at all. And you heard, again, a number of situations that occurred in our town in which those individuals, whether they be volunteer or career or both, went above and beyond the call of duty. No other municipality does what we do here. I've heard from 2 other municipalities that want to try to do it, but it's a little bit more difficult than meets the eye to prepare for something like that. So again, I thank the town board for your support in continuing to support that event. It definitely means a lot to the members and their families. Associated with that, again, there was about a $300 to $400 expense to create all of these certificates. I just want to make sure that I have consensus. I can just submit those receipts. Thank you, Councilman Phillips, for endorsing this idea. I appreciate it. But again, it's basically the same thing we do each year.
Certainly. Do we need a motion, Jim, to do that? To reimburse them?
I mean, it's a town board expense.
Is it already budgeted?
Well, it can come out of town board
Yeah, I think
expenses.
That's
we have
fine.
money in that.
We have $300 to $400 in the town board expenses.
You can always do, if in doubt, make a motion.
Well, I mean, I don't have the exact number, but the point is, if there's an issue, we can vote on it, but I don't think that's
How about
gonna
we
be
just make a motion up to $500,
Okay,
we reimburse you?
Second.
Thank you.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed.
Appreciate
And, thank you again, Bill, for all that you did, all the time, effort, attention, and I think running that process really flawlessly. It was tremendous service that you provided.
I agree. It was a really nice job you do. Every year you do a great job, Bill, so thank you for doing that.
It's the least we can do, and again, it's not about us. There are some incidents that I was on. You see me I put the certificate down. It's not about me. It's not about us. It's really about the individuals that are out there
Exactly.
responding to calls. 3 o'clock in the morning, having to call in, call in late to work because they're volunteering their time. New Year's Eve was one, New Hackensack, highlighted. These guys were away from their family, trying to handle an incident. So again, thank you to the town board for your support.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anything? Okay. Motion for executive session. I know Jim had attorney-client.
Make a motion.
Second it.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you.